Hey.
Hello, everybody. How you doing? Welcome. What's up? Did I just see Wade raid us? Was that a Wade raid?
I think it was a Wade raid.
Oh, the music's too quiet. They can't hear it. I knew the music was too quiet. I said too. I was like, I think the music's too quiet. It's there. It's just really quiet. Because he just said no music, I think. What is up? I hear no music. I just turned it up. Let me know if you guys can hear it now. All right. I'm really excited. This is the start of a brand new campaign, a brand new series, bringing my old homebrew world that I've been working on for years over to this channel for the first time, which I'm very excited about. And I get to do it with Keegan. What is up, sir?
Yeah.
How you doing? Oh.
I'm good. I'm off work. It's time for D&D. I'm fucking happy.
Yes. Very excited. Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, Keegan was I'm very excited to have in this game. Very excited with me. Not the first PC to join the fold, but was the first one to have his character done. So I'm just saying, like, that's not why you're going first, but you were the first one to have your character done. You know, for the other PCs, if you're out there, if you're watching, if you're listening, have you done your Idiopan yet? Have you picked your gods? I don't think you have. I don't think you have.
Mine was ready.
Yeah, how many gods in your
Super
Idiopan?
7.
You see, look at that. Keegan, all over. He was totally ready prior to we went live. So, you know.
Yeah, that's me. That's how I roll, you know.
I thought it was with D20s, but that works as well. Cool.
7 or less is actually what I meant.
Oh, yeah, okay. Fair. Okay, yeah, I've seen that. Awesome. So I'm really excited to get stuff started, but since this is the start of a new series and not necessarily everybody have seen Keegan before we actually go in, do you want to say like who you are and what you do before we like start the campaign? Do you like the opposite of an outro? SirKiken, and the actual channel that I run with a couple of friends and some guests is the Unnatural Ones over on twitch.tv/unnatural. No, so fuck. I said it wrong. Where's Dave? It's twitch.tv unnatural_1s is what it is. And on Tuesdays we play stuff also. Usually the same edition of Pathfinder. Their channel not found. Wait, did I spell that wrong? With my SO just now? Is it 2 N's in unnatural?
Yeah, there's 2 N's in unnatural.
Oh, no! Yeah. Damn me.
This is why we'll never take off. Everybody misspells unnatural.
Awesome. All right, awesome. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. Okay, so in case you're new to this channel, or if you know how to do campaigns or anything over here, it is important to note that this is a long-form campaign we're going to be starting. A long-form campaign, meaning it's a campaign that's going to go on for not just several months, but it could even go on for a few years. A few of the Aurorum campaigns I ran over on my other channel went on for over 3 years IRL time. Give me lots of time to get very familiar with Tyler, if you know Tyler. Rena, Messy, Tesh, Neil, a bunch of others. You know, just made really good friends with them because of how much time we spent playing these long-form campaigns. So this is the start of that. But to start the campaign, I always like to give all my PCs a session 0. It's a proper, anywhere between 2 to 4, but we're going to do 4 for each of these PCs. A 4-hour session where it's just them. They get to be familiar with themselves, how they want to play their characters, the world, so on and so forth. So this is going to be a 4-hour session of just Keegan here, playing Mikhail, and getting familiar with, you know, himself before he gets introduced to the other PCs, and they start ruining how he originally imagined his concept, right? Thank you, everybody. Green and everyone else that's throwing the bits in there. Appreciate it. Thank you. I'll call out thanks in a second. It was Green. It was Celsier, who was also a PC that played with me for a few years over there. True Initiative. All of you guys. Oh, and then there's Sakari Club. I want to say it's called Sakari Club. Thank you so much. Back to you, Keegan. So where were we? So session 0 is going to be exactly that, where they get familiar with themselves. And then finally we bring to session 1, they all get introduced to each other, etc., etc. So hopefully you like the concept. Hopefully you have fun with it. It's certainly the way that I like to do things over here. And then I suppose before we just dive right in, any last second questions, Keegan? Anything that you want to say or bring up before we go? Whoa! Tiny Wrath is actually my older brother, Gary, a.k.a. Garen, if you're reading a birth certificate. What's up, Gary? He knows the reference. So anyways, anything you want to say or call out there, sir, before we go?
Honestly, no, dude. I'm just kind of ready to get started.
Yeah. I mean, rolling into this project, I went and I contacted Ryan Grandmason, who is a awesome logo artist who created the Aurorum logo for me. They also the same person that made the Dimension Door Games logo. Like it is a really cool guy. I reached out to Askren. Askren made the overlay art that you see, did the character art that you're seeing. So I worked with some great artists to set this up. So I guess
it's gorgeous.
Yeah, I know. I'm so
gorgeous
excited.
Art.
I won't lie. It was worth starting weeks later was worth every bit of it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm just glad I don't have to keep secret anymore. I'm in the campaign. I don't have to tell people anything weird. Okay, yeah, we're good.
All right, cool. And I suppose this is one last thing. If you ! Aurorum in chat, it should pull up to the World Anvil. The World Anvil is still in its infancy, but I'm building out all the details, so it's publicly available for you guys, including like who the gods are, what their alignments are, you know, their concepts, etc. Different regions are going to be added in there, playable races. We're playing in Pathfinder 1E, so how they're kind of like set up in this. I'm building it out as time goes. Expect to be done in like next year. But there's a bunch in there already, and you can totally just check that out there. All right, I think we're thinking about unmodding Messy. Wow. Let's get started, sir. Cool.
All right, let's go.
All right, so our campaign starts with our campaign starts with us on the continent. Sorry, on the planet of Aurorum, on the continent of Eroth, and for you personally, having just left the nation of Paradel. I mean, your character spends effectively his entire youth, his entire life, in the nation of Paradel. Paradel itself, a well-known nation in these lands. I mean, they're a relatively young nation, being only several centuries old, but they are well known because they're known for the amount of war that they always have. They are constantly at war. Every border of Paradel is pretty much always a conflict of one sort or another. Paradel's a nation ruled by 3 rulers, the Turumbar. Each one of them claims to be the master of some sort of a war that they're always overseeing. And because of that, because it's so well known at the edges of Paradel and outside of Paradel as being this warring nation, this like violent nation that's always churning, always taking more land, always pushing forward, it's kind of maybe strange from an outsider's perspective that your character doesn't see things that way. You're not from outside of Paradel, nor are you from the borders, always moving. You're from the heart of Paradel, from the center of it. As a matter of fact, almost in Paranhia itself, the province that is in the center of Paradel. You don't see any of that, and since news only travels as far as rumors bring it, and by the time it gets to your ears, it has been modified by each person that's told it along the path. Oh, honestly, as a storyteller yourself, how much of it's really true, and how much of it's embellishment? So your character grew up instead in the heart of a nation that is very industrious. Compared to a lot of the other nations that the continent has to offer, I mean, education is available for all that wish to grab it, including farmers, though most of them don't go and seek it. This is base level education, of course. There's prosperity. Sure, there's still poor that exists inside of the nation. Everyone will have it, but there's a considerable amount of prosperity that exists out there, and there's a lot of community that exists. The nation's always pushing forward, and it has very fair laws. For, you know, in the name of Lady Aravel, there are very fair laws that exist here, and they're exacted with pretty strong, hand of the law. Yeah. I mean, there is an openness, there's a fairness to anybody who comes and seeks asylum in Paradel. I mean, honestly, you may have to do your dues, and for those that are born in Paradel, you can always rise in the ranks. You just have to work hard for it. It truly is a wonderful nation to live in. I mean, your upbringing personally Maybe not the easiest of everyone's, but despite that, you still had a lot of opportunity, no matter where you came from. Opportunity that you sought and found in one of the Arcane Congress sanctioned universities. Years having been spent there, training, learning how to read, how to write, how to take the song that exists in your heart and share it with the world around you, or at least help somebody else share that song. Anyways, you spent many years toiling over tomes and reading old scrolls, learning everything that you can, not just about songwriting and music, but also about personal interests of yours. Lore. You know, magical lore. Magic itself being, you know, maybe not from your personal perspective, but you certainly know from others, as uncommon as it is, as rare as it is, it's exciting for people to see and to hear, for people to witness, seeing their eyes light up the first time that they see it happen. But then there's the old magics, the magics that aren't quite the same, don't have the same sudden shock and pizzazz as maybe a prestidigitation or a silent image. There's the old magics that linger, that last, that entrench themselves in the very soil of a land and will not be budged from there. A good portion of the time you spent at your university, you spent studying of such a thing, curses even. What were they called again? How did you label your sheet there, which can be found on the what's it called? World Anvil for those listening.
The one link I didn't bring up.
Oh, you bastard! I can grab it for you. 1 second.
Materials.
Yeah, I can get it for you. It's funny. I can't. I'm actually. Usually it pulls up immediately for me. It also didn't just pull up for me. I'm the bastard too. Mikhil, Mikhail's notes on Idir. Here is the link for anybody in chat that wishes to see it.
Yep. If you're in the Discord, it's under Aurora Materials.
Yep, it is. Yeah.
That's where I found it.
So it's just your notes on Idir, and I don't.
Yes.
That's right. The rumored curse, the curse of the Shattered Throne. That was the big curse that you had heard of there. But there's also the sub curses that you heard of therein. And so your character, near Mikhail, near the end of his education at his university, near the end of the time that he's going to spend there, as he's effectively writing his thesis to get the official promotion out of the Arcane Congress. So therefore, all of the rights and the laureates and the ability to practice your talents in the greater world beyond, you want to write your thesis about your kind of like something that you find interesting. The curses that live in the lands just barely to the north of where you went to school. And so as we start our campaign, and this is to you now, Geekin, as opposed to narration for everybody else. As we start our campaign, your character had only left the university about a day or two ago. Honestly, as short of a time as that seems to you or I, the amount of time that your character spent on his feet, the amount of time Mikhail spent on his feet, the days are already blurring together. I mean, yeah, he has a history as a youth, spending a lot of time traveling. But the number of years that you spent at the university have softened your souls, have allowed you to grow a little more relaxed, has honestly softened you across the board. And so when the opportunity presented itself to pay a couple copper, to be on the back of a wagon and ride the rest of the way, yeah, absolutely you did so. You paid the coin, and the gentleman told you can just sit in the back and maybe you can play a song for them in the evenings, as you will. And they said that they can take you as far as Forvin. And
Okay.
you're like, I remember seeing that on a map. Forvin. Yeah, that's where I'll go. And so there you are, picking up with the campaign. Your character's on the back of the wagon. You're lost in your own thoughts, just watching off at the horizon, bobbling up and down as the dirt road and the wagon wheels are tossing you about, a feeling that you've already grown numb to in your own exhaustion. the sun setting, and the colors painting the sky all around you. Honestly, in the back of your mind, you're a little distracted, remembering there was the right before you left the university, there was a feud that was happening at a local tavern. It was the what was it? The Lemur family had just come forward with a pretty scathing song, really tearing into the Dracus family. And you remember listening to that and being like, "Oof, that was a pretty rough one." Yeah. Either way, I mean, the Dracus family, they're not like us, right? So
Yeah. You shut their faces for a while, you know.
You're able to see this kind of happening, bobbling as your head's bobbling. You're stirred to attention as all of a sudden the wagon comes to like a jolt, comes to a stop, and as it comes to that stop, you're just kind of like, oh. Taking to your attentions. One of the gentlemen comes around the wagon to let you know that they are stopping. And he comes over. It's the younger one. And he's like, "Oh, Mickey, right?"
Mikhail, actually.
Yeah. We're stopping for the night. You think you can help us turn down the horses?
I have hands. Never turned down a horse before, but sure.
When you say it like friendly but also without confidence, he kind of like gives you a long look for a second. That kind of long look that you would never find in a proper city. It's only out here, removed from society as you are, that somebody can look at you that long and you feel as penetrated as you are from just the way that they're staring at you. But at the same time, all you can do is like smile through it. After like a solid 2.5 seconds pass, he goes, "All right then," and then like turns and walks off, and you can just like feel the judgment over. Don't know how, never done it, but what? And
Nothing. He just kind of shrugs that one off and sets his stuff down. Gets out.
You can see that he goes off, and the way that he's leaning into and speaking to is, you're pretty sure it's his father. He kept calling him as my boy, right? So you're pretty sure it's his father. Goes over, the way he like leaned in and said something to him, the way the father kind of like looked back down the wagon, towards where you're just, trying to get your legs back beneath you again. You're pretty sure they're saying words about you. And then they start moving, going about their, I guess, ritual to set up the camp. It's only your first day traveling with them, so you've not familiar with their process. Go ahead.
Yeah, he after like noticing the look and such, he will kind of pause, that like sort of just that little bit of a pause that someone gets when they're like trying to decide on, do you kind of rise to the judgment, or do you react to this, or do you just keep going? And all he does in response is he just takes his like outer coat, which looks actually like it was probably really nice at one point, but it's seen a few trips that he didn't get to go on, and it's been sewn up and patched up several different times. It's still nice, it's well taken care of, but it's not new. But still his. He removes that, takes that off, and is down to just like his like the tunic on the inside, folds it up and sets it in the back of the wagon so he doesn't get it dirty, and he'll actually like jog over to meet them.
Sure. So you jog over, like eagerly going to join them, and as you jog over, and again your legs are a little bit weak beneath your knees, as you're heading over there, you yourself aren't even sure where you are. I mean, it's one of those things that you're jogging over, and well, you can see at least they've taken you to the edge of the hills. Leaving Derwin as you did and walking as far as you did, you were happy to come across after a whole day of walking and exhausted, passing out by the road. And the second day of walking, coming into a small thorp of a town, maybe a couple dozen people live there. Joining up with them was wonderful. It's been a long day of traveling, uncomfortable but off your feet. But at least you can see where you are. It seems to open up to plains. The hills must have left you at some point in time. You're not entirely sure where you are at this point, but at the very least, you're comfortably outside of the region that's kind of known to be dangerous, northeast of Derwin. Those hills have having the reputation as they do, right? Anyways, so you jog up to meet them, and the younger one, whoa. It's okay. We'll wait for you. As you're like just trying to eagerly help. He'll point at the horses and he'll say, "Them. Those are the ones." And then turns to start doing his task, leaving you to yours. Do you push for any more instruction, or do you just start fumbling about it?
I'll walk slowly over to them, but like look over. Is he turning down a horse at the moment?
He's actually gone to the side of the wagon where there's almost like at the base of the wagon there's like a drop out door, like a latch door, where he's reaching in and starting to pull out some supplies, likely again to set up some sort of camp.
I'm guessing the horses have like equipment on them of some kind.
Yeah, of course. Whatever it is that ties up to the wagon, your bit bridle, all that fun stuff.
Is his dad nearby?
Yeah. He's got like a length of rope, and he's starting to head over towards a nearby a slender but a tree nearby, and he's going over and seeming to go to tie the rope around it.
Okay, I kind of motion toward him and say, just everything off him?
He gives you that similar kind of look, though not as long and not quite as judgmental as his son, and says, yeah, take it off, brush him down, set him free to go and feed for a bit. They got to get a good grazing on them. Oats don't last long.
Huh. Well, I'll start with the equipment. I'll start taking the equipment off.
Sure. And so, you start going ahead and going about that. You don't need to make any handle animal checks or anything about this. These two horses are well trained. They're both older. You fumble through it. There's a couple of times where the horses like snort at you or shake or whatever it might be. And you definitely get tripped up at some points in time. And you think you left something more tangled than you should have, but honestly, it doesn't matter. You were able to get them off. And you think you did a good brushing of them too, at least good enough for somebody that has no practice, right? But eventually the horses just straight up walk away from you and start grazing, and you're like, okay. The whole process for you, because you're not familiar, takes upwards an hour. And during that time, they've already tossed a line between two trees, thrown like a quick tent kind of, over it. You hammer tack the tent down into the ground. Gathered together some wood, lit up a fire, and have been, getting the fire to the point where they're starting to set up the trifold over the fire to, set a kettle to start, a boil or whatnot.
Okay.
So they've already really gotten the camp ready. And it's one of those things where as you finally are done and going over to join them, again, from the younger one, you get that look like, took you long enough. You know what I mean? Do you say anything as you approach, or is it just one of those you go over to sit down?
He approaches, as he's coming up, he'll just say, well, they're grazing now. Kind of just walked away from me. I don't think they liked my humming.
When you say that, the father will frown a bit and go, oh.
That's why I stick to the lute.
He'll when you say that, he'll stand up a bit more and kind of be like, so you're gonna play for us tonight, or?
Yeah, if you'd like. I look. Is it night?
Yeah. As I said,
okay.
The sky was painted with colors. I said earlier, and an hour has passed. So yes, it is dark now.
Okay. So then, he'll say, there's like a pause, and he's like, I'll go get the loot.
As you walk away, granted, it's very, very hard to hear, but luckily he's got that, what is it, Daelish whisper, where, he hears it, not a bright one, is he? Says the younger of the two.
Okay. Yeah, Mikhail, when he gets back to the wagon to get to his loot, he takes, there's a pause where, he gets back there and it's just him. The smile drops, and he just kind of stares into the wagon for a moment. Doesn't say anything. He just, closes his eyes, takes his loot up, puts the smile back on, and jogs back.
Sure. You head back over, and at this point in time, you can already see. And granted, you've only been gone for a minute at most. They've already busted out and started to chop up some roots or some like root vegetables, and they're already starting to add a couple of things to the kettle, even a few herbs that they have nearby. Hey, that's actually pretty nice. The idea that it's going to be more than just say some fowl found on the grounds nearby, you know, some like a pheasant or whatever it might be, and a couple of carrots. The idea that it's going to be more than that is wonderful. So flavor this evening, woohoo! You can go over, and I imagine your character. Is there much set up to you playing with the lute, or do you just kind of take it out and start strumming?
No, he's a pretty talkative person. So yeah, he'll find like a good spot to sit down, and after he takes a seat, while they're doing whatever they're doing, and he's kind of out of the way, no one's paying attention to him. He takes a moment and kind of just looks around his surroundings, just sort of takes in the wildlife, the temperature, just like little details of it. He even closes his eyes for a moment, takes a deep breath, and he'll say, this probably won't be a song you've heard at any taverns or anything back home. My family calls this road music. Just comes from the inside. Very observational. Let me know if you see anything you want me to play about. And he'll begin to strum. At first it starts kind of it's very simple. Just a few, like, not complex chords, not playing very quickly. Just very soft, very melodic. And then right about the moment when himself and likely others are beginning to feel like they kind of know the notes that are coming next, that's when he begins to like naturally add things to it. But it's clearly very freeform, and he starts to kind of tap onto the body of it. There's no drummers or anything. That's the only percussion he has. But he's obviously very practiced at this. And like I said, it's nothing they would have heard before. So they get to hear an original piece.
Oh, wonderful. Cool. Well, for that original piece, whether it be through the composition or through the actual play, whether or not your lute is properly tuned, or maybe your fingers are just numb from the sitting on your hands on that long trail, why don't we see, with the first die roll of the evening, why don't we see how you play this out, sir?
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Just in time for Roll20 to give me an error.
Somebody said, "Hey, Mickey," right? Oh boy.
Yeah, somebody did. Alright, here we go. Perform strings.
Everybody's first campaign roll is a natty 20. No, just kidding.
That would be nice. That'd be
a waste.
That'd be setting a precedent for me. Unnatty 20, maybe. That'd be nice. Oh, shit.
Yeah. Nice. I don't think we have... Oh, no, it did pop up. Did it pop up on stream? It did. Cool. I'm done. Awesome. So a 20 total on the die roll. That's awesome. So you were able to... what is it? With your 15 right there. With your 20 total, you start strumming through the song, and not just this song, but the one after that, and so on. You actually completely changed their opinion of you. They were happy to take the 2 copper, which honestly was a bit of a steep price, but you were able to really, really kind of like cheer them up and get them, excitable and get them happy. While you're playing your music, they're really into it. There's like long moments where they just like sit and will just watch, and a bit of conversation will come off of it. Is that because as you said, it's like point out things you want me to sing about, like literally observational, and they're like that thing over there, like a little too excited about it as you're playing through the music, and again just really kind of like brought in, really enjoying it. As the evening rolls on, you probably it's one of those things where you've probably enjoyed this for a bit. First of all, you can even feel the again the exhaustion the characters have in the past couple of days. You can even feel the tiredness in your fingers and your knuckles as you've been playing for as long as you have at this point. And you can see that finally the older of the two, whose name you still haven't captured, because it's one of those, like, he had said it before when you had asked him when you were coming on, but he said it with such a mumble. He never actually caught his name, and he just kept calling the younger one my boy. Either way, so Mumbles, we'll call him for now. Mumbles eventually kind of like stands up in between songs and goes, "Well, I could do this all night, but we gotta have the things done by first light. And I feel like that's gonna be coming sooner than any of us care to admit. Night. And he goes over and starts making his way over to the tent.
Night.
The younger of the two will after the older one leaves, he watches him leave, and then he reaches down into a sack they had near him, and he pulls out a skin, and he's like, "One more," and then he'll open up the skin and take a long draw from it, offering it to you.
Yeah, I'll take some.
Okay. When you drink this, to call this wine is an insult to the concept. I mean, some fruit was used in some fermentation process. It has the vague remnants of what you imagine they think wine is meant to be, but it is both entirely too sour and entirely too watered down, but yet still has like watered down in flavor, but still has enough of a kick that you can feel a slight burn in the back of your throat that suggests this wine is maybe turned to vinegar. I don't know. It is. Oof. It is an unpleasant experience, to say the least.
He doesn't really mask his reaction to that. There's just like screwed up face, like he hands it back while he's still reacting to it, and then he'll actually laugh and says, he just laughs and is like, "Yes, and that's not for city kids."
When you say that, oh man, that's such an endearing way to say it. He'll actually, like snort and laugh, like a proper laugh with that one, and slap his knee once or twice too. Like that's a good one. And he'll be like, yeah, and grab it back from you. And this time, almost like stepping up to the challenge, takes an additionally long draw, pulling from it. And you can see as he pulls it down, there's that forced expression of means nothing to me, on his face, like.
He just sighs and like looks around. All right. What's the next one?
He'll actually shrug and say, "I don't know. Play your favorite."
My favorite. Okay. It's been a while. He thinks for a moment, and like you'll see his hands actually go up to the strings for a moment, as if he's ready. And there's like a pause where, obviously, the boy doesn't know this, but he kind of makes a conscious decision that he's not going to play his favorite song. Mm-hmm. It means a bit too much to him to play for this kid, but he'll play a good one. He actually thinks up one. He actually will probably think back to one that he heard from the Lamar family during their feud, and he'll like kind of play off of the tune that was on, and just kind of make up his own little doodles and things to add through it, and a couple of just like lyrical lines thrown in every once in a while.
Awesome. So you play through the song. I'm not going to make you re-roll for this particular playthrough. You go through the song. As you said, decidedly not your favorite. And you play this like more complex song or whatever it is. Like you said, not road music, something that's actually like genuinely good music, something that you would play in like a proper place. And he listens to it, and he listens to the whole thing. And it's one of those things where at the end, he takes a couple of drinks and he goes, "I guess that one's not for country boys." And will himself stand up and say, "Well, old man's got one thing right. Dawn's coming sooner than we'd like. Good night." And he goes over and goes to climb into the tent himself. As you're left alone for the first like 10, 15 seconds, looking down the lute, making sure everything's good, grabbing the case to put it in and whatnot, you look around and come to the realization that there's only one tent, and it definitely is not big enough for 3 people to be inside there.
Okay. So as he's like realizing that, he kind of looks at the tent, and there's like a long sigh, and he'll look back at the wagon, and walks over there. When he gets to it, he's like kind of out of the like out of earshot from the others, he will say quietly to himself, "No more trips with bumpkins. Fucking idiots." Climbs into the back and will basically sleep on the floor of the wagon.
So you climb into the back of the wagon, which has already been, full of stuff, and that there was enough room for you to sit there. Now you have to spend the next 5 minutes trying to move things to make a space for you to properly get some sleep. And you spend some time, whatever it is, trying to get some sleep. And when you finally lie on the bottom of the wet, again, it's one of those it's warped in all the ways that no matter what, your shoulder, your neck are bent funny. There's, you get your cloak on you, your robe or whatever it is that you described beforehand. You pull it around you, and it's doing what it can to stave off the cold. But god damn it, it's either the ground outside by the dying fire, or it's in here and cold on an uncomfortable wagon. And I guess, is this where you choose to stay for the rest of the evening?
He kind of debates it, but there was a fire. If it's dying, but if it's still going, all he has to do is add some more kindling, more fuel. He can get that going and sleep on the ground. Eventually, it's probably an hour later. He probably lays there for a while because he just spent, sunk costs. He just spent all that time clearing the space, and he's like, "No, I'm gonna make this. Oh my god, my back." So he'll eventually just get up. He actually probably stomps over to the fire at this point because he's actually pissed. But as he gets closer, it's it lightens, realizing that he doesn't need or want that confrontation if it does wake someone up. And then he'll add whatever dried kindling and stuff he can to the fire, get it kind of stoked again, so provide some warmth, warm himself up, and then find a log or a rock or something to curl up near and just sleep there.
Perfect. Just do me a favor real quick. I don't think you're proficient, which is fine. Roll me a knowledge nature check. So as you're rolling that, which I don't believe you're proficient, so you cap out a 10. As you're rolling that and you go over and you finally get yourself curled up, one of the things that you hear as you start curling up to the to the rock and lying into the fire, you've been lying there for maybe a minute or two, you start to hear the chirping of birds that you're almost positive are just morning birds. And so as you're hearing these morning birds, you have even more of an aggravating time trying to fall asleep, not aware of the fact that the morning birds that you're familiar with, not too far to the south of where that is, they sound similar to the birds that are here, but these are not actually a type of bird that sing in the morning. It's actually a nearby, insect that has a type of chirp or cricket noise that sounds similar to the chirping of morning birds. You just happen to be in the grasses, the tall grasses, inside of Idir. And so these grasses, again, it takes you even longer to fall asleep because you're aggravated by and we've all been there before. When you're going to get a small amount of sleep, so you're so angry about that, it takes longer for you to fall asleep. Anyways, when you eventually do fall asleep, you wake up in the morning. By the time you fall asleep, it's such a deep sleep, you don't hear the spitting of the fire. You don't feel the wind as it turns colder, and certainly you don't feel the droplets on your face. Instead, you wake up in the morning, unfortunately, with a rather wet, outfit on you, as it did, not only did morning dew settle, but on top of that, it was a little drizzling that happened overnight, leaving you onto a slightly muddied ground and in wet clothes by a fire that has long been put out. What wakes you up is the sound of them already putting together the second horse, getting it, all of its equipment on it to get the wagon going as they start, getting ready for the next day trail. You kind of wake up and you roll over and you almost immediately, your teeth almost immediately clatter, you almost immediately shiver as you go to stand up to go there. I mean, it made sense to start this journey now. You want to graduate, but the simple fact of the matter is, summer has already passed. You're in early autumn. And so the days are still quite warm, but the evenings can get quite cool. So with that said, you are, your teeth chatter as you wake up and you kind of look around disoriented, realize all I just described over the next almost minute before you finally stand up. And the old guy, walking past you, goes, "There he wakes. Thought we lost you." And shoves almost like a It looks like almost like a copper pot, like a tin pot, because it's like a bowl with a handle off of it. You know, shoves it against your chest, and you look down and you see some sort of gruel kind of food inside there. Oh, it's the soup left over from last night, but they added oats into it to make it more filling. So it absorbed all of the leftover juice from last night and just made it oaty. And then it's so old now that it's cold. So now it's oat-filled soup that's cold and congealed. Like, as you must eat that.
Okay. He kind of looks at it, like teeth still chattering, and clenches his teeth. Just goes, "Thank you."
Yep. He says. God.
Once he wanders off to go do whatever other preparations, if I think that I have enough privacy, as it were, I'm going to cast Prestidigitation to warm this horrible concoction.
Oh, yeah. Honestly, truth be told for you, something like that could be done after the ride starts and you're just in the back of the wagon.
It's true.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not an issue at all. Sure. So you step away to do whatever preparations you need to, wearing your sopping wet clothes and wearing, you know, the cold food, or you just check in your loot case you left inside the thing, so that's safe. And most of your other equipment is inside there, so your papers weren't ruined by the rain. You know, none of the other stuff were ruined by it. So you're good to go. You go and take your morning piss, whatever you need to do, and very shortly thereafter, they're on the road again. So you are able to move on. And is there somebody I need to ban?
Yeah, there's a bot. Well, at least they're sorry to bother you.
Yeah. It was funny. I was on your channel yesterday, and there was a bot that popped up, and I accidentally clicked the link, but I clicked away so quickly that even my history didn't show up that I clicked the link, and I was like, oh my God, I clicked the wrong thing. Anyway, so where were we? So you get into the back of the wagon, and there's that moment where you make sure that you're properly being jostled around by the road that's there. Well, because you're being jostled around, and we are playing Pathfinder, you know what you got to do.
Technically, that's concentration.
Yeah,
check.
let's go, baby.
Okay, so I will bloop the spell, and then bloop the concentration.
Ooh, Ken. He's just Ken.
All right, that's what you need. You got it.
For a cantrip.
You jostled around, and it's one of those things where you get jostled so much, and you're cold, your teeth are chattering so much, you barely get the words out needed. You barely get the motions needed with your hands borderline shivering for you to successfully warm up your soup. Or your oat soup meal thing.
Food.
Yeah. Your sustenance. And so you're able to eat it. And as you warmed it up, you may have, I suppose you can't do two things at once. You would have just warmed it up. And when you're eating it, honestly, it's not terrible. It's not great, but it's not worth us talking about any more than we have. Mm-hmm. The day goes on of traveling, jostled about. You actually see a considerable number of people on the road that happens there. And not only do you see a considerable number of people on the road on this like little side trail that you happen to be on, and most of them heading almost like seeming to come from other places, heading back where you came from. There's even like moments where your wagon will stop and there'll be like small amounts of conversation whether if you hop out and look over. And you see they'll have like little bits of conversation with people that they pass by. But for the most part, people pass by because you're just like bored. You can't write, right? You're not going to strum your lute. You might snap a string with how you're being jostled about. You're not going to write. Your penmanship would be useless. You'd be stabbed through the parchment. That all being said, you see people go past when they come into view at the back of the wagon, the covered wagon. So eventually the day passes. It becomes evening. And you can see that once again, it's ready for time for you to set up a proper camp for you this evening. And so the same thing comes over. The boy comes over and goes, "Hey, you gonna turn down them horses?"
Question. was it agreed that I would be turning down horses
It was not.
as a part of this? Okay. So that was done as a favor.
Yep.
All right. I'll be in the middle of probably tuning the lute. And I'll just go, I don't think so. I think I got the experience I wanted last time. Thank you, though.
He goes from his like friendly smile to like there's like a moment where it literally takes a moment for him to process the fact that you said no, and then his smile kind of like drops, and he holds looking at you for like another second just to see if you're like psych or anything like that. And I imagine you just hold the view back.
I give him kind of a curious look. Say, oh wait, did you need me to do that?
He frowns now and goes, nah, and then turns and walks off.
All right. I go back to tuning.
Again, in your mind, not only are you justified because it wasn't a part of the deal, 2 copper is like a legitimately good price for like you not taking up space and providing entertainment. Where if you made 2 copper in a single night for the quality of playing you did last night, you'd be pissed, right? Like,
Yeah.
like you know, I mean, Derwin is a place where there is money to be spent and money to be earned. You know,
They made me sleep on the fucking ground, dude. Like, what do you want from me?
yeah, yeah.
The horses wouldn't have done that.
Nope. Anyways, so you and they never even stopped and offered you like a lunch at any point in time. You had gruel for breakfast and dinner, and that was it. Or I should say dinner last night and gruel this morning. All right. So anyways, by the time you finish tuning your lute, getting everything you need to do, and you come round to what it is, the older gentleman will look to you and go, "Hey, gonna play tonight or?"
Yeah, absolutely. That's what was agreed.
He
Any
nods.
requests?
He nods. He goes, maybe not as late tonight. Yeah, we should. Because you yourself feel fucking exhausted after everything I just described over the past 45 minutes or so. And so he's like, not as late tonight. Why don't you give us 2 or 3 really good ones? Belt them out there, and we can all turn in. Make it a good early evening. Yeah.
Sounds like a plan. Where are you from? Maybe I know some local songs.
He nods slowly, and he goes, originally north of Astrad, but I've moved about over years as opportunity presented itself. You know anything about Astrad? You don't. As a matter of fact, why don't you roll your check about Idir to see if you even know what he's referring to?
Okay. I have. Oh yeah, that's right. I have lore.
Mm-hmm.
Which
Or is that
Idir
specifically curses?
Oh,
Oh,
specifically curses.
Oh, never mind. That doesn't even apply. So,
Yeah.
so it'd be knowledge. Local doesn't. Yeah, I don't think you do. You have anything specifically for Idir or no? Aside from that.
No, I didn't have enough skill points for it.
So the simple answer. So he goes, you know anything about it? You know Astrad? Your answer is.
I have artistry songwriting, so it's possible I could still know songs from the region. I would know they were from the region, though. That's right.
There are no songs of that region.
Okay. So then I'd say, no, actually.
He nods.
I
and
could
he
come
goes,
up with something.
He nods and says, "Sounds about right." And then just shakes his head and goes, "No, why don't you sing a song about Meshtez?" And you actually do know a song of Meshtez. It's actually a pretty solid song about the fires of Meshtez that happened so many years ago. I mean, most people that have Kraleen in their heart know about the song of the fire of Meshtez, right? When the city was set ablaze and so on. So you can do that. Why don't you, just for simplicity's sake, Keegan, so we don't get stuck here for too long, roll a another performance check for this evening's play.
All right.
And of course, I make a couple other requests and you fulfill and so on.
It is. It's gonna lag on me, of course.
Mm-hmm. You're good. About my banana.
It's really bad.
Mm-hmm. So so when you're done playing like your songs, the old guy goes, I feel like I heard it better in Hot Glen. All right, well, night then. The meal this evening was, about as good as last night's meal, which wasn't terrible. He makes his comment, standing up and going, I feel like I heard that better in Han Gwen. Night, and goes to retire himself to his tent.
Mikhail doesn't say anything to that. He's not smiling.
The younger one, looks at you and goes, well, it just takes more time for us to have a good evening, he says. And he pulls out his skin again.
You insist on torturing me.
He chuckles and he says, don't worry, almost empty after last night. The other one's different. And he pulls out a full skin from his sack.
By different, do you mean... I guess I'll find out.
After a few draws of the first drink, when the next one's opened, the only way I could describe it is somebody thought that potatoes could be used to make wine. They were not correct. And we'll leave the description there. Either way, as the evening draws on and your character is whatever degree tipsy, not necessarily fully intoxicated, though after a day like the past several, I wouldn't blame you if you wanted to be. You might be a little afraid you're going to go blind in the morning, but that's fine.
Right.
You eventually are able to find yourself to a place to sleep. And but as he gets up to go to bed, he will actually look down at look to the sky and say, ain't gonna rain tonight.
That's good to know. Where are we, by the way?
Let's see. A couple dozen miles north of Meshtez. If you kept heading north from here, you'd probably find your way to the lake.
Huh. That far already.
Nods. He says, old trails make for good roads.
I guess it's good that it won't rain.
He'll chuckle at your how you're being skeptical, and he'll actually head over to like where they had prepared some wood or whatever it is as they were doing their own preparations, and bring over like an armful of logs. And he won't just toss one into the fire. He'll actually strategically place first two gingerly and then the third one on top. And you can see he's putting care to it to suggest that the fire is going to last longer.
Okay. Then I'll thank him and grab whatever I can that I curl up with and go to sleep again, hoping he's right about the rain.
Yeah, of course. You leave, I assume, most of your items inside of the whatchamacallit. You got maybe because now that it's steady, it's still relatively early-ish for you. It's not like you're doing much walking. And the fire is actually bright enough. You could probably have like your parchment and inks and stuff like that with you in case there was any like things that you wanted to write down, whether it be a type of journaling or what. You can have that kind of stuff with you, and because you're curling up next to the fire, you could have your loot with you or whatever. But for the most part, you leave most of your belongings back in the wagon as previously discussed. Wagon.
Yeah.
So, anyways, your character, with the warmth of the wine, doing its job, and with the exhaustion of the past few days, you do fall asleep, and it doesn't take too terribly long to do so. You're able to find a degree of comfort and pass out and sleep a proper deep sleep. When you wake up in the morning, when you wake up in the morning, you wake up to a buzzing sound, and you eventually slap away a bug that's been settling around on your face, and you notice that it's a bee. That's oh shit, look around, you realize, oh shit, it's bright out. Like it's like properly bright out now. And as you're confused because you're supposed to be leaving around dawn, you're like
sits up quick at that.
Yeah, rub away from your eyes, sit up quick, and you look around, and the wagon's gone.
He's on his feet. Okay. Wagon's gone. Is the tent gone?
Tent's gone.
Tent's gone. Yay. I run over to the road and look whatever direction we're heading.
Yeah. Which is funny because you're like, wait, shit, what direction were we heading?
Yeah.
Survival check.
About that.
you run over to the road, and because it's not a proper road, you're not on an actual proper road. They said, old roads or whatever it is. You look at the road and you're like, honestly, I'm pretty sure this way to this way is the road that we were on, but I'm not even 100% sure that this is the road. We are out in the grasslands in southern Idir. Where the hell am I? And you literally look around and you're not even entirely sure which way is the road, let alone which way on it they would have gone or come from, right? And so you're just alone out there.
Fan-fucking-tastic.
And it's funny because almost like a voice whispering into your ear from some chat somewhere far off in the internet ether somewhere. You remember all of the stories of the Idirian grasslands cats, the plains cats out here, and you realize you're alone in the grasslands in Idir, and you're like, oh, and there's like that moment where like suddenly things go from like being aggravating, what the fuck, where are they, so on and so forth, to oh shit, okay.
Yeah. That story comes to mind like right as he's like about to yell. And it just kind of dies. He's like, oh shit. All right. Are there any landmarks of any kind?
From where you are, unfortunately, no. You can't notice any with your 0 survival check. Nothing that stands out to you.
Yay. Okay, so I've got my loot. I've got probably some writing materials. And
you have a small pack of coins on you. You remember,
True.
there was you may have had most of your stuff still inside the wagon, but you did still have a small amount of coin that was like, the old rule is, and you remember this from your childhood, the old rule is there's coin in your hip, and then there's coin on your there's coin in your purse, and then there's coin on your hip, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, you don't have much. You have something like what is it? We had it. I think you have 2 silver and 5 copper still on your person, right? Like, which sucks because money is not easy to come by, and 2 silver is nothing to scoff at. But you had another dozen or so silver inside the wagon with other supplies that you brought with you. You had borrowed with permission 2 books from the university that you were meant to use to finish writing your thesis. And those books easily could be worth, like, I don't want to say it out loud, but easily could be worth a couple of gold each. And they were lent to you by that professor because of the connection that the 2 of you had, the fact that they liked you so much. And now you might be missing tomes that are hard to replace.
Hey, look, you could have stopped that sentence when you said missing, because I might be missing. Yeah, he's scared and pissed, which is a terrible combination to have in the middle of nowhere, with a 0 survival. So he's got money, which is great when you're alone.
I love that you rolled knowledge nature. Natty 1. Survival. Natty 1. Like, it's really setting the precedence of your character, right?
It really is, yeah. It's just, yep. Yeah, you're right when you said he's softened a bit being in the university. Okay, so I've got coin, I've got writing stuff, at least got my loot. I'm assuming I have my dagger. Because your dagger
would have stayed with you in case you had to, like, you probably would, whether whittling or if you need to, clean out the gunk inside of your quill. Obviously, like you said, your writing supplies, whatever inside you. You have a basic pack of a few different other items that happen to be with you just because it was where your writing stuff was, so you had pulled it down. And fortunately for you, as you scrambled around by the road, as you're walking back, some glint of metal catches your eye, and it must have bounced out the back of the wagon. But you actually find, as wonderful as it is, your old sword is on the side of the road. So
he runs over and grabs that.
You lift it up, and You have never before in your life seen such a beautiful rapier. You even draw it from its hilts to stare at that wonderful, well-oiled, rusted blade that you have right there. You're happy to have this in your hands.
Hey, look, it's sentimental, okay?
Okay.
He actually does breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief at that. That's not lost, at least. But then he remembers the books and all of his other stuff and the other money and the fact that those fucking bumpkins just robbed him. And he's mad again. At this point, he may be a little more mad than he is scared, which is good, because that'll spur him onward with his 0 survival, meaning he picks a direction and walks. Because I have no way to otherwise tell where I am.
Well, no, that's not entirely true, because while once you settle down, so not minutes later, like we're talking like solid 15, 20 minutes later, once you like settle down and you kind of settle into the mind and you realize, okay, I need to pick a path to go. I need to pick a way. And you remember, well, you woke up late, clearly, but it's still morning. And everybody knows where the sun rises, to the east. So you look and you're like, okay, that's the sun. Okay, I know that. And your character's no fool. He's legitimately intelligent, right?
Yeah.
And so, sure, you're thinking through the haze. You're not hungover, fortunately, but you're thinking through the haze of last night's drink. And you do remember he said something. What was it that he said?
Stick north and you might reach the lake.
That's right. So if you if that's east, you turn left from there, and if I go this way, stick north and I might reach the lake. That should work. Okay. Your original plan was to go to either depending on which was easier to get your way to, either Leshev or Hodgwen. Why? Leshev was known. Leshev has, as far as you know, Leshev actually has like a decent amount of lore that you believe you can find there. To say that they have a library would be foolish, but it's said that some of the people there, some of the nobility that's there, not nobility, the wealthy people there, have collections of books and old stories and whatnot that you might be able to get your hands on. So your idea was to head to Leshev, ask the right people, play the right songs, and maybe make some sound there. Hodgwen, you know that you can go to, and it's effectively the capital, if you will, of Idir. There is no capital. These are all a bunch of independent city-states, if you want to even call them that much. Towns, independent of one another. But Hodgwen itself is kind of a proper city-state. And it's where you can find the most peoples, which have the most stories, and maybe even some more lore that you can find there. The lake, if you remember correctly, Forvin, we can take you as far as Forvin. That is somewhere between the two of them. The lake, Forvin was on that lake. So if you can find the lake, you can find Forvin. Forvin's between the two, and you might be able to find your shit.
Yeah.
So, with that in mind, you turn 90 degrees, you start walking north, and you walk about 20 paces before you realize, I don't have food.
Nope. He just keeps walking.
With a bit
He's
of
been hungry before.
Bit of a dejected feeling in your heart, bit of a slump on your shoulders, but at least the first evening of proper rest happening in a while, and luckily all the wonderful calories of alcohol settling in your belly, you're able to start moving forward. Now, you're walking across plains, trackless plains as it is, but still plains nonetheless. And so, a day's walking here, you're thinking to yourself, I don't know, walking through this with my sore feet. Well, 2 days, recovered, so less sore feet. You're thinking you could probably make, I don't know, maybe a score of miles. You can walk north of here, maybe 18 miles. You don't know how far you are from the lake, but if you properly hoof it, you might be able to get to where you need to go. And so you do exactly that. You start walking. And the hours go by. The grueling hours go by. This walking, Keegan, is it done quiet, in solitude? Or do you entertain yourself with any strumming of the lute? What do you do?
When he's first traveling, like after he's kind of settled into the walk, like the initial pains of it, of like, yeah, this is gonna kind of suck for a while, like whatever the temperature is. Once it kind of settles into not a runner's high, but a walker's high in a way, that's when he'll try to find other ways to distract himself. So he would eventually start to kind of pluck at the lute and just kind of, rattle off a few different rhymes and other things to himself. But as the hours begin to go by, that jovialness does fade, as he's more focusing on keeping the image of Pops and the boy, Mumbles and whatever his fucking name is, more focused on keeping the image of their faces in his mind, so he doesn't forget what they look like. We'll say just so that he knows where his stuff is.
Yeah, cool. No, that's a great one. For the sake of forensic, right? Because they're forensics keeping notes, because they're absolutely wonderful. Do you want to go ahead and roll for me an intelligence check for how well you commit this to your memory?
Sure.
This is if you play with Psionics, Psionics actually has a skill check specifically for doing things like committing this to your memory, and it will be locked in there perfectly.
I don't know if you know that.
Oh, my apologies, Keegan. I'm sorry for questioning you. You're amazing. All right, that's an 11 on that roll right there. So that would have been a time to luck if there ever was one, but unfortunately, no luck dice for those that are asking or curious for chat interactions. Those get introduced on session 3. It's important to note we're doing 3 session 1s and then we're doing 3 session 0s and session 1. That'll be introduced on session 3. So effectively 5 streams of none of that, where you're saving up all of your initiative, and then finally on the 6th stream, which is session 3, it comes out.
I'm not too upset with that, with it being an ability check, so.
Yeah. No, that's not terrible. Exactly. It's different from a skill check. As a skill check, you could already have a +7. Ability check, you only have like a +1 or 2. Fun fact for these characters, I think we use 10-point buy to make these base level characters. Does that sound right, Keegan?
I can't remember. It might have been 10, yeah.
Yeah, I think
it was low.
It was 10 point buy, yeah, which is considered low fantasy. And then we also you're level 0. You're not even level 1. So, which has lots of negative things with it. All right, cool. Let's continue. So, Nori knows. Cool, thanks, Nori. Also, hi, Nori. Back to the game. So, you, sir, are, as you said, you are in a dour mood. The loot has long since been put away, and the hours have rolled on. And unfortunately, at one point in time, you did find a small, we'll use the word creek, that existed in the land. No proper stream or river, just like a really kind of like popped up from the ground at one point, popped back beneath it, and it is flowing. You grabbed water from it, but you don't even have the ability to properly light it a fire to make sure that it's safe, but it's moving, so it should be okay, right?
Helps. Yeah.
And you drink that water.
He will take a look like upstream just to make sure there's not like a bunch of rotting bodies or something up there. Like,
oh man, that's where his mind the mind of a storyteller. Rotting bodies up the stream. Rotting bodies. Yeah. What's it mean? All right, so and you take draw, and then you don't even have. I don't even think you have a proper water skin on your person, right? You might, and then you are. Actually, let me check that real quick. Right enough.
I'll tell you, I don't have one on my sheet, but
just looking real quick. There might be. You actually do have a water skin. Yep, as part of the pack that you have, the backpack that has the different items in it. So
did you actually list that in the thing? Because I'll throw all that on my sheet if it's somewhere I can look.
Yeah, there we go. Well, inside of Discord what the item was. So what your equipment is as listed by value, and then I'm going to Discord to you real quick a link of what that is.
I'll go.
Somebody else.
Grab that as we go along.
Cool. And so it's funny because you bust out your water skin, and as you're busting out your water skin and filling it up with water, your water skin itself, because you didn't need it, was so packed away inside of your pack that you had there. As you're taking apart your pack, you realize, like, you're pulling it out, so on and so forth. Because again, you didn't necessarily need. You haven't traveled in so fucking long. As you bust it out, you take it out. You realize, oh my god, I have a bedroll here. why was I sleeping on the ground without my bedroll? And then as you are getting your pack, you remember one more thing. An old thing that one of your friends had told you beforehand. Don't just travel with your stuff. Pack it away so that the weather can't get it. You actually take out your bedroll from your pack, you unroll it, and you realize you have rations in there. You bought them well before your trip. These are like tack bread and stuff like that. You brought them well before your trip. So they've been rolled up in your bedroll for like 2 weeks prior to you even starting your voyage, and then it's been days of horror. You actually have sustenance. Thank God.
Yeah. He does let out like a sigh and like kind of smiles a little at that, and then he'll actually say, like, kind of whisper to himself, "I'm still going to kill them."
Yeah. You say it to yourself, and then you swear you hear like a low growl happening not far from where you are, and you're in the grasses. It's one of those like, maybe let's not stay here for too long, and keep moving. Keegan,
Yeah.
Quick question: you've been walking all day long, as far as you can. Your character's tired, but you know that the longer you stay out in the wilderness, the more dangerous it is. Would you push yourself any degree into the evening? Would you push yourself for a couple extra hours of walking? As long as there's daylight. I mean, like I said, it's early autumn, so the hours last longer than, say, 8 hours of travel. It lasts more than 10 hours. 10 hours because you assume 8 hours of travel includes like a little bit of break in here, so it's about 10 hours long. Would you continue pushing yourself a bit?
Me, no, but Mikhail might, because not only just his current kind of temperament of he wants to be out of the wilderness, but to his logic, this is the point in the trip where he is going to have the most energy, so he's going to use it. So he'd probably push himself today.
Perfect. Why don't you go ahead and roll me a, Constitution check, right? It's not a fortitude save, it's a Constitution check, DC 10. Easily
Sweet.
Pushes on. Let's go for another one.
That one's DC 11. Doesn't make that one.
Okay. So as he pushes himself on, the extra hour he does with the greatest of ease. You know what I mean? Not that it's comfortable or fun or anything like that, but then there is but then you push yourself a bit more. And unfortunately, as you continue to push yourself, you start to feel exhaustion properly set in. And exhaustion is not just an easy thing. When you get properly exhausted, if you fail a check, which is, by the way, DC 12, it's +2 per hour.
You're right.
When exhaustion properly sets in, you unfortunately also suffer another small side effect of exhaustion, which is this. 1 second. 4 points of non-lethal damage hit your character, which is a little rough. So your character, I think, has a whopping 7 max HP.
Yep.
You are properly exhausted. Like, you push yourself on this last hour, and just at one point in time, because you weren't paying attention, because it was actually now getting dark, and you're just tired, and your feet are sore, you literally slip on a rock and you tumble to the ground, and you end up banging up your elbow and scraping your shin on the ground. You check your clothes, all of a sudden you scrape inside your clothes that's there. Like, God damn it! In the name of the gods, roll over and look at your loot case. There's a proper scuff along the side of the case too, and a little dent into it as well. And you're just aggravated. You're just so fucking annoyed because of everything that just happened these past several days. Why'd you leave the university? Why did you pick curses? Curse this land! Curse Idir!
Yeah, he's pissed.
Yeah. Oh, what up, Patty
Holy
Cake?
shit.
How you doing? Aw, raid from Pat. We love Pat.
Hey, there
Pat's
he is.
one of our favorite people.
Yeah.
Pat, we need to play Abiotic Factor again so you can get mad at me again and turn it into YouTube shorts of me being a real fucking stupid moron. Not even just a moron, not even just like a stupid moron. You know? No.
No. It's the neatest I've ever seen him be.
I showed that clip to Brittany, and she's like, mm-hmm. Like, not even surprised in the least bit. She's just like, checks out.
Just outright refusal. I love it.
Yeah. Oh, man, and then I think at the end of the clip too, like Wade is just guffawing, like this full blown. All right. Anyways, back to the game for you, sir, and welcome, Raiders. Real quick recap of what we're doing here. Session 0, first session of our new long form D&D series. 3 PCs in a low magic fantasy setting. This is a session 0, which is a 4-hour solo session. I'll have 2 more session 0s for the other PCs after this, and then finally we'll get everybody together for the proper session one where everybody meets. Back to your campaign, though. So with your game here, you, sir, are exhausted, and so finally you just are able to settle down for the night. I don't know. I assume you're not going to push on, and I assume you're not going to walk into exhaustion. And sorry, you're already fatigued. You're not going to walk until exhaustion, correct, or unconsciousness even.
Correct. Yeah, he's going to stop.
Which makes sense. So again, for those of you, he has 7 max HP. Just took 4 points of non-lethal damage, and that can't go away until he gets rid of the fatigue. So it won't be gone until at least after breakfast tomorrow. So for you, sir, you eventually properly like get your bedroll out. You get everything you need to do. Reach into your pack, get your tack of bread, which is not good. Like, it was a good idea when you bought it, but now that you have it and you're chewing on it, you're like, this is awful. This is not like what I had when I was a kid. This is just terrible. This is unenjoyable. You don't like it at all. You really
Why would I do that?
Huh?
Why would I do that? I have magic.
Oh, what, you want to cast a spell?
Yes.
Okay. So you take a bite at it, you remember how awful it is, and then again in your exhaustion, you're just like, oh yeah, what am I doing?
Ugh.
And then, go ahead, what do you cast?
Prestidigitation.
You cast prestidigitation.
Now it tastes like bacon.
And now you're eating very, very crunchy bacon. You know?
Very dry, very crunchy bacon.
Or you could soak it in a bit of water, and then it's very soggy bacon.
Yep. Still tastes better than hardtack.
That's true. And anyways, so you have your stuff there, and you're able to get your bedroll out and curl up in bed. As you're going to curl up in bed, as you're getting ready to properly lie down, you're almost like a dog walking around. It's like, how am I going to approach this? This is going to be good enough. You look off to the side because something catches your eye. You see light off in the distance. You marked the road before you went to bed, of course. You know which way you're going. There's light to the north of where you are. You can actually see light down there.
He like kind of starts to get up, and then like where he fucking wanged his knee, like throbs. No, it's probably further than it looks.
So, you give up?
Stay put.
Okay.
He sits there and kind of watches it for a while. Sees like, does the light move? Does it flicker? Like, is there any other information you can get from it? From maybe walking to the edge of his camp, but he's not going to go like try to approach it at night. Yeah,
it's too seemingly too far because, like you said, does it flicker? It's too steady for it to be something that's like a close small fire, right?
Okay.
You're not entirely sure what it is, but there's some sort of light happening off in the distance. Cool. And so you just leave it be. Yeah.
The only other thing he'll do is he'll like draw like an arrow in the ground towards it, so that in the morning he knows where it was.
Yep. Sounds great to me. Perfect.
Yeah.
So you eventually curl up into your bed that evening, look up at the stars, which there's a clear sky again, so you can see, the millions of stars that are visible in the sky. You can even see 2 of the moons this evening, and you're able to eventually kind of like fall asleep, wandering at the heavens like you've done, many times before. You wake up in the morning feeling well enough rested. Again, your stomach is grumbling. You're still groggy. Your feet are sore, and you just have the aches from the fall yesterday. But after you kind of like roll out of bed and immediately start, getting together your breaking down camp to start going, you're able to get together your breakfast and consume it. For those of you that don't know, non-lethal damage in Pathfinder heals at the rate of 1 health point per level per hour. He's level 0, so for the sake of this, he'll actually heal 1 health point per 2 hours. But when it comes from being fatigued, what he did, he first has to remove the fatigue condition before those will heal. So, first he had to wake up. He did. And now every 2 hours he'll heal 2 health points. So over the course of the next 8 hours, his damage will roll away off his character. Fun. This ain't 5e. This ain't your kid's D&D. This is Daddy's D&D. You question life choices. So your character gets up. He's going about, prepping his, his tack, and chooses maybe a different flavor this morning with the spell. Looks down at the arrow. It's actually pointing to the north. Looks off to the edge of camp and looks over and... Well, I'll be damned. Roll me a perception check.
Okay. Perception. I got all my items put on there now. Wait, no, I don't.
There we go. 16.
There it is.
You absolutely do see the twinkle of reflection in the morning light off of the lake. You can see it.
Huh.
It's there. And more than that, you actually also can see it looks like maybe structures down there. That fire, it must have been a nearby town. They must have had a fire going last night, like a bonfire or something like that going last night. Holy hell. You can it's there. And if you were to make your best judgment from where you are, I don't know, maybe 2 miles away, maybe less.
That's not bad. Okay. Yeah, he packs up very quickly, seemingly in a much better mood. There's no observers, but, we have an audience. So, seemingly in a much better mood, packs up really quickly, probably leaves a few things. As he's, running off, it's like, oh, shit, no, I need that. Grabs it, and he probably hurries off a little too fast to be, potentially a few miles, but eventually gets the proper stride and will make a steady pace towards it.
Absolutely, of course. And so you start doing exactly that, like you said, heading off in that direction, doing what it is that you have to do, et cetera, et cetera. You're excited because you're finally going to be where you needed to be to head that way. As you're heading towards this town, you know that you yourself are looking awfully road worn. Are you happy with your image that you're noticing as you're approaching, or do you want to try to correct that before you get there?
Yeah, he's gonna clean himself up. Yeah, well before he gets to town. Yeah, he again prestidigitation, super useful cantrip.
Yep.
Cleaning just to clean himself off, but then he just runs his hands through his hair, tries to get that all sorted. But yeah, make sure dirt and leaves and stuff like that are excised.
Funny, you the PC have said super useful cantrip, but in game your character has more or less expended most of his magical energy for the day. But in doing so, it's one of those things I can imagine in his mind. He's thinking imagine what life would be like if I didn't spend all those years, nearly 10 years or whatever it was at the university, learning to the incredible foundations of magic, learning what I have to do things like make my tack bread taste like bacon or clean my clothes as I walk down the road, leaving behind not just clean clothes, but the faint aroma of, let's say, what's it called? Honeysuckle or something like that, right? So you there's all these amazing things that you can do, the conveniences that it almost cheers you up thinking about the abilities that you have making your way down there. And so as you do start to feel in a better mood, because you are getting closer to the town, there are, in fact, structures there.
Okay.
Not many, but there are structures. And so you start making your way to the town. And as you're walking up and the structures are getting closer and you can actually see the proper lake there, and you can even see, it looks like as you are coming over a hill less than a mile away, there's actually a river stretching off of this this lake, heading eastward. So if the lake is just north of you, heading east of that lake, there's a river stretching that way. Walking towards that town and making your way over as jovial as you are with your loot case slung over your shoulder. Once you actually start approaching the first building being more or less a farmer's house, I assume you don't start at the farmer's house and you're walking more towards the proper town. These are other structures.
Yes. Unless I see people, if I see someone, I'll probably talk to them briefly.
Yeah, nobody sees you immediately, or you don't see anybody immediately as you walk towards the town proper. Walking towards that town proper, you can actually see that there are several buildings that are together over there. Buildings is maybe the wrong word to use. There's about 2 buildings, you know, and the rest of them seem more like lean-tos. Like, somebody made a home for themselves, but like, you know, a combination of some field stone and sod or whatever it is that they use to construct these homes for themselves. But, you know, there's homes.
This definitely is not a town.
But you make your way in nonetheless, and then you start to notice, like, several people approaching you at once. Several approaching you at once. And you can smell whatever bonfire they had last night. The char of it is still in the air. You can smell, like, the lingering, like, the smoke, and you can smell the lingering burning wood in the air. Must have been quite the bonfire that they had to have it linger this long into the morning. Maybe there's still some smoldering embers nearby or whatever it is. Truth be told, it's a great smell. Whatever wood was being burned, it smells awesome. Yeah. And honestly, it almost smells like there's pork or something like that being cooked too, which is great. Like, I mean, they a pig roast or whatever. That sounds awesome. Must have been quite the festivity that they had going on.
Yeah.
So, anyways, several people are approaching you as you're coming up to the town. I imagine a wave or.
Can I get a read on these people at all as they're approaching before I hail them?
Yeah, sense motive.
Yeah. I'm so glad I put a point in this. Because you know what? You don't always have to be a charismatic character who can't tell what people are thinking.
Good with your. Oh yeah, of course you're 18. So, so you notice that it's not okay. There's one. There's 7 people approaching, and pointedly, all of the people are approaching. Right, out of all of them are approaching. Very obviously, 6 of them are dudes. Look like farm hands. 2 of them have pitchforks, and one of them there's a woman that's coming over, and she has a butcher cleaver in her hand. And it's one of those things. They're making their way over to you, and they're grouped now, making their way over to you.
Okay, so he starts backpedaling, and so instead of like approaching, he just like immediately starts walking away, like backward away from them. But he'll still say, "I'm guessing this isn't Forvin."
I'm guessing this isn't Forvin. And when you say that and you start like backpedaling a little bit, passive perception, whatever you have, you can hear a bit of movement behind you. And there's one person that's riding up on a horse around behind to where you are. So not like close, not like immediately behind you, like several dozen paces back or whatever. But you can see like they are, I think a pace is technically like 20 feet or something like that. But your pace is being steps, several dozen paces back. There's somebody that is riding up on a horse and kind of positioning themselves behind you over there. And you say that or whatever it is, you say those words and you look back and see that and you're like, oh shit. And then when you look back over, you can see like one of the people is clearly like stomp walking very quickly towards you, picking up the pace, breaking off from the others. And they go, hey, you hold up right there. And they start like aggressively walking towards you. And unfortunately, it's one of the people with the pitchfork.
Okay. So he straightens and will say, only if you do the same. No need for violence.
You say that, and you can see like he almost like slows down. No need for violence. And he looks pissed, like he's full on triggered by your saying that. And you're like, okay. Clearly, I found myself like your 18 sense motive. Clearly, I found myself into a scenario where like, not my fault, but I'm the one here. Right. Unfortunately, it's DC 20 to get hunch, like a full hunch of the scenario. Right. But like it's but like not my fault, but clearly I'm finding myself in a shitty spot. And you're like, I don't know what this means, but okay. And then like I said, he almost back a step and then like Now he's walking even more aggressively towards you. Not much faster, but like proper stomps, like a child angrily walking down the hallway. You know what I mean?
Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. I have to make a decision here.
Yep.
Okay. I have decided I'm going to cast a spell. Because I'm frightened. So
Okay.
I'm going to cast Dancing Lights.
Okay.
And I'm just going to have you see how there's an effect there where it says you can make a faintly glowing, vaguely humanoid shape?
Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to have that shape faintly glowing around myself. So it looks like I am glowing. And we'll say, I'd much rather just talk.
You do this, and you can see the angry look of his face. Very, like, it freezes, and almost like you press pause on a movie and you're watching it go forward in slow motion. It turns from pure rage to just horror. You're watching it go from rage to confusion to disbelief to horror play across his face. His eyes widen, and you swear, because somebody does, and you think it comes from him, you're not sure because of how quickly he turns afterwards. You hear a high-pitched shrill, and it may have been him, and you can see several of the people, again, 7 were walking up and there's one behind you, several of the people turn and immediately start running, just absolutely booking it away from you. One of the guys that doesn't have a weapon points at you and goes, "Arsugo!" And like other people, you can like hear rustling from around, and they all start turning and running as well. And it takes like a few seconds, but eventually everybody turns and tries to run from you.
Do I know what that means?
Not in the least bit, no.
As they're all running and stuff, he kind of holds up his hands. He leaves the glowing in place because they're still armed. But he just holds up his hands and says, wait, no, listen, just calm, relax. I'm not going to hurt anyone.
This is going to be a very hard check. You can go ahead and try a persuasion.
Diplomacy, I'm assuming?
Yeah. It's very hard. Like, it's above a 20.
Okay.
Oh my
okay.
God, go! For those of you that don't know Pathfinder, to properly use diplomacy on somebody, on an NPC, it's based off of their attitude towards you. And if they're hostile, it's DC 25, right? It's DC 25 plus their charisma modifier, right? Mm-hmm. I'm confirming this right now. Pathfinder,
that is
diplomacy, correct. And they do not have a positive charisma modifier. These are basic townsfolk, which means it literally is a DC 24. You just barely hit it. Oh my God, you actually got it. So you throw your hands up and you turn this huge fumble of a mistake into you actually get one of the people to stop. Out of all the people that turned and ran, it was the woman that has the butcher's cleaver in her hands that, like, she stands and I love you, Aurora. Good night, sweetheart. How was it?
That's so precious.
She, with a butcher's cleaver,
I watched that recently.
I haven't seen it yet. She stands there and she's just like wide-eyed. She's scared. Just very laborious breathing, and she's just standing there. You honestly think it's a combination between you convinced her to stay and fear paralysis, right? But she's an audience, and you know how to play to an audience. Say your piece.
So now that I got one who's not running, but they've all seen it, I will dismiss Dancing Lights.
Okay.
So just like a dude. And I'll just say, look, just tell me what's going on. Maybe I can help. You seem reasonable.
She looks still scared. Several seconds go by. She doesn't say anything. She's just laboriously breathing. Do you say anything else, or do you wait?
He waits.
Okay.
You'll give her a minute.
She eventually takes a breath and she goes, Are you Arsugo?
Okay. If somebody asks you if you're a god. No.
Sugo's not a god. At least
I
not
know.
Not in the pantheons, you know.
No, but the way that they reacted. So, you know what? He will instead, because she's answering her question with a question, he'll just say, just tell me what's going on here. Why were you ready to attack me?
She looks, for the first time, breaking eye contact, looks away, looks around. You can see by the way that she's looking around at a building nearby, other people are still nearby. Probably, if you project your voice a bit more, within earshot of what you're saying, but like hiding from you, but close enough that you know that any lines you say after this, project a bit more. Use your stage voice. And,
yeah, I was going to say he would switch to a stage voice when speaking next.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah.
And so she goes, "We're Sugo's men. They came by last night. And they didn't like our offering." And she like head slightly turns almost like behind her slightly, whatever it is. And your eyes kind of like lift up and look behind her over her shoulder. So the way that she's kind of looking. And you can still see, now that you're close enough, a small amount of smoke quickly dissipating. Trace smoke rising to the sky. Likely the embers of whatever bonfire they had last night.
Like a burnt offering. Maybe. I don't know. He'll say, offering. Listen. Truthfully, no, I'm not Orsugo. I don't even know what that is or who that is.
Orsugo is said to be fire itself. Orsugo is said to be Kraylene's vengeance. Orsugo is Orsugo demands tithings. Orsugo burns. And all of a sudden, first of all, two things. It clicks. I just shed myself in literal glowing light. Okay. Yeah. But also, is Kraylene's vengeance. That's like blasphemy for where you're from, but you know.
I was gonna say, yeah, what does it even mean? From my perspective.
Like Kraylene is chaotic neutral, so I mean, like, but your perspective of Kraylene.
Yeah. That's. So he kind of like shakes his head at that and says, "Kraylene's vengeance. That vengeance for what?"
She shakes her head slightly and says, "For." She just shrugs slightly.
Someone tell me more about this Orsugo.
Somebody else steps out from around the building and goes, "They say that he's an orc that stands at 10 feet tall." And somebody else goes, 10 feet? No, 12! Somebody else quickly calls out. And like somebody else says, "They say that fire can be seen in his eyes, to the depths of his soul." You hear from like somebody from another direction, kind of like peeking out from around where they are. And then she says, "He burns. He burns when he's not happy. Last night, he burned that." And she like lowers her head and looks down and shakes her head slightly. And not to leave you questioning for too long, somebody else chimes up and says, "The whole family, all 5 of them."
What? Wait, hold on. You said he's 10, 12, 15 feet tall? So he's not 5'7" and human.
You say that, and there's like a couple of moments of people being, you know, like,
For what it's worth, I understand why you were scared. I was too. But now that we know we're not enemies, maybe everyone take a breath and have an actual conversation.
Somebody said, "The guy I saw last night wasn't orc. He was human." And somebody else says, "It wasn't 1. It was 3.
I'll look towards them. Just so 3 people came and did this. They burned a family.
They demanded tithings. Didn't like what they got, and so they burned them, locked them in their home, and burned them.
Oh, like look towards where the fire is. Oh, that's horrible. Look, I got lost. He kind of falters off for a second and says, I'd like to try to help somehow, but this might be a bit beyond me. It's just like probably quiet for a second. Well, you know what? I should give it a try. Where is this Orsugo?
The person that originally, you're pretty sure he was the one that did the high-pitched squeal and then ran. And he comes around properly around the corner, says walking towards you as he starts speaking. But as he starts speaking, you almost don't pay attention to the first couple of words because now you're realizing that like wonderful smell of pork that you had that was almost making you hungry this morning, what it is. And then you yourself are just kind of like, your stomach starts to turn. And again, the first few words that he says are kind of like lost on you as you're like coming to this realization. And then you realize like he's done talking and he's walked significantly closer to you and that you did not hear a word that he said because of what was just in your mind.
Oh, he's just walking to me now?
He's about the same distance he was when he stopped from you originally. So, several paces away.
So yeah, he'll just say, apologies. Once more, my mind wandered.
He just kind of, he just nods and says, yeah, has that effect on me too. They said that he burns the forests to the east of here. They say that he sets fire to the horses of Varen and rides them through the night. Nightmare, they call him. They say that they say that he is the chief of the free folk. They say that he is, well, he's Kraylene's vengeance. It was stories. We've heard of them. And he's saying more than what he originally said. He's like, almost took this opportunity to elaborate. He say that we've heard stories. We've heard of him. We've never seen him over here. Not till last night. Not till last night. Somebody cries out and says, it wasn't him! Said it was 3 others! And he like tosses a sharp look back that way. Like, motherfucker, I'm the one telling the story right now.
Right? To the east. Understood. Well, if he's already passed for now, then at least maybe the danger's past. I mean you no harm.
He nods slowly and says, I can see that. Yeah. But, why did you have fire? How did you do that?
A extensive education. I'm obviously not from here.
He frowns and you say extensive education because he doesn't quite know what you mean by that either. But you say I'm obviously not from around here. He nods and says, "Yup. Figured maybe Hard Gwen."
Not from Idir at all. So, a little bit of a fish out of water. This is my Idirian welcome.
Again, like things are kind of like turning more comfortable. More people come out, and now you can see there's about like 24 people around you, right?
Okay.
And it's looking at the number of buildings that you saw as you approached. Honestly, this 24, they don't even all live in this town. These are probably all of the townsfolk of like the nearby farms and everything. Like 24 people includes children, and
wow.
elderly. Like this is everybody. And so if they burned 5 last night, that meant this town had maybe 30 people, and they've just dropped like a sixth of their, population. So,
okay, so they've just devastated this place completely.
Yeah.
Fuck. Okay. But, he'd continue as, like, more people come out and just say, Look, at this point, just kind of need a place to rest. I'd rather leave you in peace. If I had things to trade, I'd offer those, but unfortunately, I ran into some trouble on my way here, too. You didn't see two others pass nearby on a wagon, did you? Maybe last night?
This particular one that you've been speaking to, he shakes his head and says, no. Most people don't come this way by foot or road. Most take the river. Or the lake. He says, like, as you don't respond to a river, he says, or a lake.
Ah. Oh, boats. Right.
Yeah. He says, like, almost like confused that you're confused.
So which way is Forvin?
He goes, cross the lake, and gestures to the lake.
Okay, so that makes sense. That's actually where I was headed. Are there boats for rent, or...
For rent? Like, take it yourself? You know how to sail?
No, I would need an escort.
He shakes his head and goes, no, but it's not unheard of that some people would... Looks around for a second, just kind of like dropping the conversation, goes, maybe now is not the right... And then, again, gestures towards, like, the people that are kind of gathering around and clearly still in shock of what happened last night, sorry.
Yeah. Right. Hello. Let's say as everyone approaches.
Yeah.
Gives like a very small bow. It says, I guess I'll start with formalities. My name is Mikhail. I mean, no one here any harm. I'm really just passing through.
The guy that was, speaking to you the most, will walk up, and he'll like walk up, and he goes to shake your hands. That moment, he puts his hand forward, and so you put your hand forward. But then, like, he notices his hand and how filthy it is. So after you've already started putting your hand forward, or fully did, he then pulls it back and starts like wiping it on his shirt, potentially even making it dirtier than it already was because it's covered with like soot and shit like that. And then he looks at it again, spits on it, does it again, and then holds it out to meet your hand. All the while, saying to you, "My name's Kilvin."
Still shake his hand. I'm already committed. Well met, Kilvin.
Yep. Kilvin himself, to describe him for you, is a hobgoblin. Hobgoblins in this world, for those that don't know, hobgoblins are red-skinned, and they have very, very, very dark colored hair, or you could even say the word fur. Hobgoblins are sexual dimorphism is not uncommon in mammalian species, but specifically hobgoblins have a pretty strong sexual dimorphism, whereas female hobgoblins have literally no hair anywhere on their body except for tufts of fur that they get at their forearms. It's like literally like tufts of fur, almost imagine like Wolverine in the old comic book style, right? On their forearms and on their shins. It's the only place where women get any fur at all. And then the men, they have tufts of fur on their forearms and shoulders. They have small patches of fur that they might get on their chest, and they actually grow hair on their head. So there'll be hair on the top of their head, eyebrows, and even some of them will grow beards, like a bit of facial hair too. But females have zero hair anywhere except for forearms and shins. So hobgoblins are not a particularly tall people. They tend to stand, several inches shorter than humans on average. So seeing a hobgoblin that's low 5 feet in height is relatively normal. Mid 5 feet is also pretty normal. High 5 feet, like a 5'9", 5'11", somewhere that's abnormal. 6 foot plus is like, well, are you a hobgoblin? Yeah. And so on. And then so that's how they are. Hobgoblins, especially in Idir, but certainly Paradilla and whatnot as well. They are very common. They make up a solid, maybe 30 to 40% of the populace around here. They're a very common race to see. So he's, sure to shake your hand. Yes, sir.
I will shake his hand. But so this settlement, are most of them hobgoblin, or are they pretty? Well, they can't be that mixed. So there's not that many of them. But is there a is there like a particular like race or whatever that seems to be most of them?
Yeah, great question. Forensic, why don't you tell us how you would like to spell that? And so back to you. So with their a particular group of race, yeah. Looking around, you can see, like I said, there's about 24 people that happen to be here, and it looks like a solid third hobgoblin and a solid 2/3 human. But you and I both know that if they look human, they might not be human, right?
Yeah.
They could be parrot. So a solid third hobgoblin, solid 2/3 humans that are here, and there's a mix of old, like properly old, and young in with the just a basic adult age that's here. And that as you're like taking in the sight with that thought trail going, you remember hearing a family of 5 burned. Is that like husband and wife with like 3 children? Is that maybe they lived with their parents in adulthood and maybe only like what was? And then again, you have to almost like shake that thought from your mind as it weighs heavy on your heart, the thoughts of it, right?
Yeah, and it's like there's no way he's gonna ask because, yeah,
exactly. It's almost too gruesome, right? And so and you said you shook his hand, yeah?
Yeah, and he'll say, "Well met," and kill him.
Yeah, and so he then will turn and say, "Well, we got there's a pause, and he says, tavern. Talk there."
It sounds good, though. And he'll like look towards where the fire and such is. Says, "Look, without too much pretense, that's going to be grim work to clean up. I am an extra set of hands. I'm willing to help out."
You say that, and others hear you. And there's that moment where like you can see, just like the people around are just like you can literally see like achievement unlocked, happen in the top left-hand corner of the screen, and like
right?
you notice the bar where it says they will remember this, happens, and he'll nod slowly and say, "I got some more work left in me," and we'll gesture and say, "This way," and he'll start leading you over. At one point in time, a child will come running up to you, and she'll reach out and say, "I can hold your stuff for you if you want," and like go to take like your pack and like your loot case and stuff like that and put it off to the side so you don't have to walk around with your backpack and everything.
Yeah, he'll hand it off and just be like, "All right, cool. Be careful with it. It's all I've got."
Okay. And so you can even see where she put it down. A couple of the other kids are going through the pack, but they don't seem to be doing anything too mischievous.
All my rations.
What did you say?
They're gonna eat all my rations.
Break their teeth on them. Anyway, so yeah, you go over and let's just say you spend the rest of the day assisting.
Yeah.
I mean, there's really no check need be made here. Your character has no architecture engineering, so there's no benefit you can offer there. You're not particularly strong or dexterous. You have no other skills that would assist in this. You are literally just another pair of hands to help out.
Yep.
What you learn is the reason why Kelvin had was willing to step away with you is because he was one of the first people and worked one of the hardest amongst them to put out the fire and to try to find and inevitably discover there were no survivors. You will also know that a couple of people have made mutterings of that at least they were taken the way that Krylene would have wanted, like more or less their bodies were completely burned. Because they weren't able to get to them until they were completely burned, like not even just husks, like properly burned, right?
Sheesh.
And
yeah.
so again, it's one of those like, sure, there's bones to this place and barrier or whatever it might be, but they, Krylene would have liked it. That it's not a proper burning where even the bones should have cracked and crumbled and whatnot. But either way, so this is a less civilized lands. Maybe they just don't know how to make fires like that. Who knows? But so he actually stayed there with you and even makes a small amount of small talk with you as you do this, continuing to work despite he did all night to today. And the woman that came out with a butcher's cleaver, she'll actually come over and do a bit of work as well. You find out that the reason why she had a cleaver so quickly on hand is she in fact is the town's butcher. She's the one that takes care of So she just didn't have her apron on because she wasn't working, but she grabbed something quick when she heard there was danger coming, Would have looked real bad if she came out with a butcher cleaver and like a bloodied apron.
Just blood. Like, yeah.
Smell of burning people. Anyways.
Hey, that's the vibe I was getting.
Yeah, you're in the wrong country for that. Or region. So, anyways, that'd be way east.
I'd be dead.
But moving,
They'd have been running. They wouldn't have been walking towards me.
So yeah, where were we? You
Yeah.
you at the end of the day, he is proper exhausted and definitely was sluggish at the moment to the end of the day. But anybody trying to, he waves away the notion of it and continues working. But to gather information from them as you're making conversation, to be clear, with your diplomacy check, you put them at a proper stop of moving on, and with the action you chose to make here, you turn them from being hostile to, I mean, it's a two-step. They're not quite friendly with you yet, but they've definitely gone to at least indifferent, from being full hostile, which honestly is fair considering like what they've been through. But go ahead.
Yeah, that is a rough fucking go.
So this is, I think, a DC 14 is what it is for them at the moment.
Right. Okay. Oh, there's the. Forgot about the query.
Wait, what do you mean I don't like? What do you mean I don't like science? I like science. Science makes me happy.
I win.
That's why my science is done by alchemy. You use alchemy for science, right? So you say what accelerants? The accelerant was, kinction. That was the accelerant they used, kinction. It's a chemical reagent that you use for alchemy.
Yeah, definitely not made up.
Yeah.
I won. I did it.
Yeah.
I win D&D.
So you're able to actually properly get some, because like you're here with a purpose, right? And you don't lose that purpose. The past 4 days have gone terribly for you. And this fifth day is not exactly pleasant. You're like, yay, people! Oh, they want to murder me. Yay, unburying burnt people. And you got the answer to your question of the family dynamic based off of size of bones. And we don't need to go into the detail. But anyways, needless to say, it was a unpleasant work you did. 5th day on the road, leaving the university, and you think that you left 6 days too soon. So, and here you are, doing this work. But the whole time, you just trying to push forward. You talk about some questions that you want to ask. That said, what questions do you try to draw from them? What answers do you try to get out of them?
How long have they been having to provide tributes to this Orsugo?
Sorry, I said kinction, and Norway's response in chat. If you're watching on YouTube, Norwegian Greed said, "Kink shame is an accelerant."
For some.
My kink is kink shaming, right?
Yeah, it's got a freaking humiliation kinks.
That's.
Oh god, it's terrible.
All right.
Well done, Norway. I'm proud of you.
All right, moving on. You had asked me a question. Unfortunately,
Right. How long have they been providing tribute to Orsugo?
Never. Last night was the first time anybody was looking to when they came looking for tribute, and when it wasn't delivered because they're not familiar with that process, that the place was burned down. The building was burned down because of this, But you also pushing that one step further. If never before, people are saying, well, they saw 3 humans. Apparently, only one person claims they saw 3 people, human. One person claims that they saw only one person, right? Mm-hmm. And nobody else saw anything because they all arrived in the middle of the night. There was fires. So apparently Orsugo, who is properly rumored, everybody had heard of him before, had showed up in the middle of the night, knocked on the door, and was like, I'm speculating here based off of what you've got. Showed up in the middle of the night, knocked on the door, was like, pay me tribute. No! And then locked them in there and then burned the house down. That seems strange,
Yeah, very strange. So that's a little bit odd. Plus, they all. So this is the first time they were asked for tribute, but there were all those rumors flying around amongst them about like what Orsugo supposedly would look like, and all of these things that have been foretold of them. But not a lot of people come through here. So in Mikhail's head, it's like, how does a rumor or a legend like that spread if there's not a lot of traffic through here and they've only been visited once?
People come through here by the boats. So you still get rumors from the boats. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So that answers that.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I guess he would ask. He would try to get like the full story of like how that encounter went down.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
You're a storyteller, and so you know the proper structure to a story, right? You're not just a storyteller. Like you are a lyricist. And I don't mean liar. I mean like you write lyrics to songs. Unfortunately, while you're a decent performer, you're a better lyricist than you are a performer yourself. Like you do good composition and you do good lyric writing, right? You understand the ins and outs of how to put on a good show. Again, at the university, there are definitely people that can do a better show than you, but you know it. These people believe they know how to put on a good show. They believe they know how to tell a proper story, but they are far and wide away from being able to land that mark. They take all the pauses at all the wrong times. They add extra details in unnecessary places. They do not tell a compelling story. It feels more like a list of facts than it does a story, right? And it drolls. So that all being said, you get the details and you think most of them are bullshit. Okay. You think that if this is one person word of mouth embellishing rather than like an actual recount of what happened here. So one guy was like, I saw one. Another one's like, I saw three. And you're like, did he actually see three? Or is he just telling a tale? And you honestly know if you try to approach that and you don't approach it the right way, you could just straight up lose any amount of testimony from him.
Yeah. I think how he'd probably approach it. Let me think. So even while I'm talking, because we're going to tap like a tavern, so I imagine there's other people.
Oh, yeah.
Not a
so
ton
my apologies.
Of people.
But let me describe that for you. So this tavern,
okay.
To call it a tavern is generous. What this is that you're in a building that clearly, with the anvil and the hearth and everything over there, like the furnace or whatever over there, clearly is the what's it called? Blacksmiths, right?
Okay.
But the amount of dust and whatnot that's settled over there, clearly the blacksmith does not use this area very often. So instead, like a lot of the spots where there might be like a place where a normal blacksmith would, use as like a working table or whatever it might be, that's where people are sitting to drink, right? But at the same time that you're here, because the blacksmith's building also has a proper basement beneath it and what have you, the amount of meat that she pulled up from downstairs to cook, you think that this also triples over as being where the butcher works. So it's the blacksmith butcher tavern building. So, and now you get the pause before he said tavern.
Yeah, for sure. So there's not a ton of space, but I imagine that means there are at least a few other people in here.
It's the largest building in town.
So it would be pretty easy to. So I'll explain what I'm wanting to do, and then I'll kind of give my reasoning. So what I'm wanting to do is when I ask like clarifying questions or probing questions, like, oh, so you mean you only saw one person? Like, I'm going to do that at a volume where it's hard to ignore for the other people. So that way, if they're like, that's bullshit, they chime in. Because I'm not properly interviewing this guy. What I want is the rumors and all of that. And I'll pick my way through it later. But I just need input. So that's my plan.
With your previous success from earlier, you absolutely are able to get even a couple tidbits more than what we've already covered. But with you knuckling in on this detail as I've described it, you're going to have to roll me another diplomacy check to properly grab this out of him.
All right. Let's see. Okay, I need to bring up my notes as well. nothing about that.
Are you saying you're not a fan of your 7?
It's, I mean, it's on brand. It's 7 or less. But
Wait, is that what you said earlier at the beginning of the stream?
yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
I don't think I have anything I can do with that at all. Oh, wait, hold on.
For
Nope,
forensic
nothing.
while he's thinking. The 12, which looks like an NFL 12, so you'd think Tom Brady is like the vibe since of where I'm from. It's actually from DFD. So hold on. DFD. As a reminder to those that don't know, or to tell, as a reminder to those that do know, or to tell people that don't. With Brittany and I, we don't celebrate Mother's Day or Father's Day. We think they're stupid Hallmark holidays and a waste of time. We don't celebrate like Valentine's or anything like that. However, most of the other people in our family do celebrate those holidays. And because most of us, well, none of us work in those industries anymore, most of us come from restaurant industry specifically, or at the very least a service industry where you never got Mother's Day off. So for many years, nobody ever had Mother's Day off. We just more or less didn't celebrate Mother's Day. We would effectively do like a small thing with mom, like a week later or whatever it was. So instead, we turned Father's Day, where it's just the easiest day to get off because everybody hates dad. We turned Father's Day into like the proper holiday for both mothers and fathers. So it's, the DFD, Drunken Father's Day or Drunken Family Day. And so like that became like where we would celebrate both Mother's Day and Father's Day. And we've been doing it now for 12 years. And so every year where it's like, it's not every year we can get new shirts or whatever it is, but my brother Gary's wife, Veronica V, V will sometimes make shirts for everybody because like many years ago, Brittany and I bought her a press to make shirts. And they're like really high quality. Like she's made me a bunch of Daelric shirts and they're the best quality printed shirts I've ever gotten. Like they're like, I have one that's like 7 years old. I wear it very often and it's still in mint condition. It's crazy. Way better than you get at a store. Anyways, so she might make shirts, or she might like get like shot glasses and put like labels on it or whatever it is. So it was our 12th year this year. So the 12 is Tom Brady 12, right? But also she made us shirts for it because it's DFD. And the dads all got dad on the sleeve, and the grandfathers all got like whatever the name might be, Papa, Grandpa, Grampy, whatever it might be on the sleeve. And then the moms just all got shirts, right? But anyways, so it's DFD. Back to the game, though. You were saying something, sir, and before I got distracted by Forensic, who's keeping notes for us, so I'll respect the question.
Yeah. No, I can't do anything about the 7. Yeah, I have an ability I want to use, but it can't affect that roll, so we'll just have to keep going.
Okay, cool. That's fine. So you asked that question, and there's a couple of moments where like you can see like at first he's kind of like, and somebody else goes, "Oh, you know him. He's always, what is it? You know him. He's always embellishing." He's like, "What? What do you mean by that?" He's like, "Yeah, spinning stories." Like, "Oh," and then it actually ends up causing like a internal argument amongst them, where because of that, he effectively like shuts down, and then occasionally he'll like look at you over his beer and just be like, "Oh, which by the way, their beer, their ale is properly brewed ale. Like, is it the best you've ever had? No, but it is after what you drink." It is smooth, and after a long, hard day of work and all that time on the road, it is refreshing, right?
Yeah. I just drank freaking apple cider vinegar or whatever the fuck like a night ago, so that's probably great.
Yeah. Apple cider vinegar. But potato vinegar. So anyways, you he occasionally for the rest of the evening will toss like dark looks over you over his mug of ale, and is not too interactive after that.
Okay. So once their like argument and stuff has died down, I'll try to keep the like kind of veneer of like, oh, that I'm interested, and then I'm like, oh, thanks, like he's being really helpful, even though he's probably like mad and feels like this whole thing got messed up. And then whenever he finally goes quiet, I'll say, well, if you shared a story with me, I think it's only fair that I share one in return. Do you mind if I play? I'll take my lute out.
And you go take your lute out, and somebody goes, no. You don't have to worry about doing that. You're a guest. Besides, we have a proper musician here. And he gestures over, and you see there's somebody in the corner, and they have a flute with them. And you're like, a flute. Yay!
Okay.
You can definitely push back on this, because flutes are nice and all, but they're nice and all.
He will swallow what was clearly not intended as an insult. And he'll actually respond by saying, "Oh, another musician. Maybe they know this one. It'll play something." Now he's going to try and come up with something that is a regional tale that he can kind of spin over the lute using the barroom tail spinner trait. But I have to figure out if I know something or not.
You do make your lore check.
I have to make the lore check, yeah.
Yeah. So more or less, in Pathfinder 1E, there's a whole bunch of different skills that exist. Not like 5e where there's like 3, there's like 30. But on top of that, we introduced an alternative rule from Paizo where you had the separation between adventuring skills and background skills. And as part of that, they introduced 2 other trees of skills that exist. One is called lore, and the other one is called
Artistry.
And both of these have like many options. And so more or less all characters have 2 extra skill points per level, but they have to be used. Those 2 have to be used in background skills. And so again, lore and artistry. And what Keegan chose was lore, specifically Idirian curses. And so that's something he can put points into and like have a proper knowledge of Idirian curses without necessarily knowing about Arcana in general or Idir in general or so on, because that's what he studied. And so what he's going to do is he's going to use this trait of his character based off of what he did studying about these curses. Sir, go ahead.
All right, let's see if it pays off. It's bold strategy, Cotton. I said it backwards, but I still haven't figured out this lag thing.
Yeah, it's weird specifically for you. I keep saying, oh,
that's a good roll.
That's a good roll. You get to reach out to Roll20 directly, but in addition, once per week, you can make a DC 15 knowledge region or intelligence check to see if you know a popular legend or tale. Telling tale grants you an additional +1 made to influence NPCs who witness the performance. So we'll harkening back to your 15 from earlier, you add more on, or your 7, 8 or whatever it is in any rolls that you make. So your 22, you remember. Pick one of the legends, or because you have your notes, pick one of the legends, or are there more, or do you want to combine any of the curses that you know of? And for those that didn't click the link earlier, inside of the World Anvil, there is Curse of the Shattered Throne, the Twisted Grove, the Wraithblade Keep, Chaos Keep, and the Valley of Doom are the ones in question here. Go ahead, sir.
Let me see. Checking. I think one of these is is supposedly in the Eastern Forest. Chaos Keep. He'll go with Chaos Keep.
Sure. So you start playing a song about Chaos Keep, and like using this to like really play into like in like 15-year-old earlier. So you start playing that song, and as you start playing it, the melody, though it's slightly different maybe than how it is that you're doing it on your side, the flutist actually knows this song, and partway in, probably at the beginning of the second verse or tail end of the first verse, chimes in and starts playing the flute with you, making it so the performance goes very well. Go ahead and roll me a performance check, sir, with a +2. You don't have to. We can mentally add the +2 if need be.
Okay, I think it'll pop up. I did add it, so
okay,
it'll be factored.
Yay! 17 solid.
It's not bad.
So with a 17 in your performance check, you put on a proper performance, unlike the likes that these people here have seen in many a year, right? And so you put on a proper performance of this, maybe a couple of other local songs, whatever it is, and really get people in a jovial mood. People are, after what had happened this morning, but you get people kind of in a more proper jovial mood. People are drinking and having it loosens up. There's later on as the evening goes, unrelated to this, but later on as the evening goes, there's proper like crying or whatever it is and talking about those that died and but yeah. Either way, whatever the case may be, you get people opening up about this, and you really like between helping earlier, that moment that at this point they're laughing, we thought you were a Suga, like that whole thing. And then the fact that you helped them and the music you're putting on, you've properly ingratiated yourself in with these people here. And so they start opening up and talking to you more about what they do. Yeah, that moron does embellish the story. At the very least, you know that somebody saw one person, and maybe there were more, maybe two, you know? Could have been three, but you doubt it, at least as of right now. Whatever the case may be, you get them to talk. Some people are actually talking about the keep, as you brought up inside your song there, the Chaos Keep. In accordance to the notes here, apparently this is on a steep hill north of an eastern forest. And you know that Orsugo is to the east of here in a forest. It's said it's a place that can bend the mind to the point of breaking, to the point of no return. You know, talking about like more or less Orsugo and how he himself is kind of like a mote of chaos, and so on and so forth. And it's actually like people are starting to like draw conclusions, like maybe he lives in that keep, maybe Orsugo's from there, maybe he's of that, and kind of like tying these bits of detail together and talking about it. But either way, putting aside specifically Orsugo and all the stories about that, you start getting to know people that are here, and they'll tell you like, you know, details about how, you know, the people that live here, kind of like what they're doing, you're getting familiar with them, that if you actually were to hop in the river because you're trying to ask questions about the region, you were doing this earlier, Keegan, what is to the east of here? Well, if you get on a boat to the east of here, the first thing you'll bump into is Herod, right? And then if you keep going east enough, you'll find yourself into Hod Gwen. And if you keep going east, you find yourself into Del. You know what I mean? It's like the way that they say, like, Del, you get the impression, like, maybe I don't tell them that's where I'm from.
Yeah.
I'm not from Paradel. And then you know, obviously, you know, to the north of here, you'd find Forvin, and north of that, you'd find Leshev, and north of that, you'd find Del. You know, everywhere you go, you find Del. But moreover, you noted that, again, most people traveling through will come from boats and whatnot. And actually, somebody says that while they didn't witness everything else that they saw, somebody actually says, like, you know, they thought it strange because usually at all points in time, you know, their dock, you know, in the evenings, I should say, until early morning when they leave before sunrise, there's usually only 3 ships that you'll find inside the docks, right? It's the 3 towns fishing ships. Because predominantly what they do is they go out, they catch fish, they sell fish to travelers coming through, and they eat a lot of fish, and they farm, and whatever it might be. But somebody claims that there was a 4th boat that they saw last night. They know that they saw a 4th boat because they swear they saw a light, and then the light was gone. That was over by the area. That was, you know, over by the docks or whatever it is. And it wasn't long after that they saw the fires. They were made aware of the fires, maybe like an hour or 2 later. They were made aware of the fires that were happening. And so you find out, you know, these kind of details. Of course, people are drinking and whatnot, so even if you try to press for more details around it, they don't really give you much to say beyond telling you that this town has at it, you know, the total of 3 docks. But don't think dock like this long marina. Think like small docks, right?
Yeah.
And so because of how small they are, 2 of the sailing boats, the fishing boats, which are meant to be out fishing for like many hours. So don't think like tiny little like dinghy that you're fishing with a single rod off of. 2 of the fishing boats tend to take up 1 dock, and the other fishing boat tends to take up another dock, leaving effectively 3 open spaces. They're claiming that they saw a boat in the 3rd dock, not near the others. You know, sorry, 4th boat on the 3rd dock.
4th boat. Yeah.
Either way, so that's what you find out there, and you know, you can kind of like gather the rest of the details you want from that on your own, and so you're able to gather that. Moreover, other fun town details you can pick up from everything that's happening here. Again, this butcher, blacksmith, tavern place that you're in, you know that theoretically 3 different people were the ones that worked here, but of the family that died, the gentleman of that family was the blacksmith. So the town effectively doesn't have a blacksmith anymore.
Yeah.
So
that sucks.
Yeah. So that's a detail there. Cool. And I think that is the rest of what I can say. Any questions, Keegan?
Do I end up getting enough details to try to piece together the order of events from the fires? Not necessarily details, because like, obviously there's a dispute on how many people there were. But did they just come and like knock, demand tribute, and then set the place on fire? did they scream at the town to bring something out? Like, what? Do I get any other details on what actually led up to that?
Great question. Nobody properly witnessed exactly what happened, so all you get is a smattering of speculation that some of them are claiming to be truth. And
Gotcha.
you are wise enough to understand these are all speculations. Again, if this was normal, like having a conversation with somebody, I would make you roll a sense motive check. But these are clearly the markings of a lazy town telling stories, and you can hear the stories being told, right?
Yeah, it's like becomes clear that none of them really saw it. None of them really know for sure. Okay. Oh man. Okay, that's interesting.
Anyway, so the evening goes on with more of this playing, and you actually do find out this flutist that's here is actually pretty decent at what they do. At first, you thought that the human, older chap flutist that was here, and then a younger human chap that was here. But as you got close to them, had a proper conversation, you saw the markings. Their face was maybe a little bit angular than you realized, from across the room, and their ears are maybe a bit more elongated than you realized. You can tell that there's like almost like a natural beauty to them that feels slightly, otherworldly to the typical mindset of of the way a human views the world. And you realize oh, this is actually a Perrin and must be old enough to have their features starting to show. If you had to guess, and you're from Paradel, if you had to guess, this is probably a solid 45 pushing 50-year-old Perrin guy.
Oh, okay. So he's had a little while to practice.
Yeah, yeah. Well, in all those years of practice, he's okay.
Yeah. He's probably got other hobbies.
Yeah.
But cool. Okay, so he's a decent flautist. I'm trying to think if I have any other questions specific to this area. I feel like they've pretty much told me all they can about what I want to know. No, he'd probably just try to keep up the jovial expressions and stuff, like making sure he's taking everyone's mind off of the tragedy they just suffered as much as he can as a guest in this place. But eventually would have to ask where's a place I could stay the night, and how do I get across the lake?
Yeah. So as for it comes to a place to stay the night, so they'll tell you, they're like, well, we don't really have, we'll even have the butcher. She'll speak to you. She'll be like, well, we don't really have an inn here. People don't usually spend the night, but don't you worry. I got a spot you can stay in. You're welcome to stay at my place if you'd like.
That would be most appreciated.
She shakes her head and gestures like, a roof over your head is the least that I can offer with what you've done, and you gave us a fright earlier, but I'd be more than happy to do so.
Thank you. Again, I do appreciate it. Small blessings are still blessings.
The evening stretches on, and the butcher lady, she herself is not young. Being human, she's definitely middle-aged, probably around if you had to guess, early to mid 40s. So again, not young, definitely middle-aged, or so that's there. But either way, as the evening rolls on and people eventually start going their different directions, she'll lead you back to her place. And when she does so, she'll actually bring you over. You can see the small house that is hers. It's not quite a sodded house. She actually has one of the more of lean-tos, if you will, an actual wooden structure house that she has. But outside of it, she actually leads you over to another smaller structure, and kind of says, well, you're welcome to spend the night here if you'd like. And she gestures into what must have been the stable of maybe a donkey or a mule, and you can tell it's not been used in a while, so whatever animal she had probably died months to year plus ago. And she says, yeah, you're welcome to stay here if you'd like.
It's a roof. I'll take it. Thank you.
Yep. She nods. There's that a moment of lingering. Go ahead and roll me a sense motive check. Because you were drinking and having a fun for the evening, we'll give you a -1 to it. So just roll and we'll subtract -1.
No, fair enough. And yeah, but at this point he's also tired, so it makes sense.
Cool. With a 15, you actually get the vibe that she's obviously being kind and gesturing for you to stay here. And at first, when she lingers and is like hovering for a moment before going, you can feel like there's an invitation. And for a moment, you think the invitation is almost one of those like, well, it's a long night. It's romantic. You know, it's a wrong night. You guys had some drinks. You're not a bad looking dude. You almost get the vibe at first of like, there's like almost like a romantic lingering. Like she's trying to invite, like, unless you wanted to come. But then you quickly realize, like, she actually seems scared. Like she's almost like she doesn't want to leave the presence of being around just another person. And you realize, oh, she was in that, like everything that you've seen her in, she's been alone. She's likely either married or widowed or whatever, not married or widowed or whatever the case may be. And like after what just happened last night, and like people being murdered, it's like that moment of lingering is like just afraid to not, you know, afraid to just go back to just being by yourself. Like this, my home has been safe as long as I've lived here, and people just got fucking murdered in their house last night. So,
True.
Yeah.
Okay, so see if he senses that, he'd like kind of pause and say, actually, not to be intrusive, is there a spot just on the floor in a corner somewhere, not too intrusive in the home? I got rained on recently. I've been sleeping mostly on the ground.
She gives you like almost like a practiced look of like maybe you're being a little uncouth, but almost immediately it washes away and says and she's like, yeah, I have a spot, yeah, and she will gesture for you to follow.
He kind of gives like a quick bow. It's like, thank you. Okay, good.
Leading you into her home. You know, again, this place is very small. We'll say it has 2 rooms because there's an outhouse to it that's like you get to from literally outside. That's like shares a wall, one of the exterior walls, or whatever. But like there is inside there's like a big room, almost like a studio apartment style, and then for the second room, if you will, there's like a loft where she will go up a ladder and get into the loft to like sleep there. Almost like if you ever watched that show Tiny Homes, almost think that, but bigger than a typical tiny home, right? And okay. So she will gesture for a spot on the floor where you can like curl up to over near where there's a I use the word fireplace because it technically is one, you know, but it's not as fancy as you've certainly experienced in the past, you know, decade. And she'll, you know, say the goodnight or whatever it is, and you can definitely get that vibe of much more relaxed now that you're in here. She excuses herself and goes and rests for the night. Minutes later, she'll toss down an extra blanket for you, and you actually spend the best evening sleep in days.
A blanket! Yes, a blanket! I didn't have one of those.
Awesome. Next morning wakes up and some of the people are still finishing up the cleanup of the burned down homes or whatever it is. But for the most part, people go back to their lives. By the time you get up in the morning, properly being able to sleep in, she's long gone from the house, right? It may have been long gone. Maybe it was even her shutting the door that made you stir at one point, right? But she's gone from the house. By the time you actually leave the home and look around outside, look down by the river, there are no boats there anymore because clearly they would have left the dock to go fishing early in the morning. And other people are likely tilling soil or doing whatever it is they do around town. Effectively, you're free.
I need to get across the lake.
Yeah. So I assume you're still trying to acquire a means of doing so.
Yeah. Like he's probably not being too like forceful about it because he's not actually in a hurry, even though he's ready to kind of get somewhere. But so he'd be pretty easygoing about it, just like, you know, talking to people he can, making whatever conversation. Even children run up and are like asking him dumb children things, he'll be polite and answer them and tell stories. He's kind of fine with this being a rest day, but he's trying to get some kind of progress on getting to his next destination.
Absolutely, of course. And so you can do exactly that, which is to say that you are able to, come across different people around town. You've certainly made friendly enough with them that even indifferent people give you basic information without any checks, right? You could ask, like, more or less, how the fuck do I get out of here? And the question kind of comes back to you, like, are you heading north or are you heading east? And I believe your plan is still to head specifically to Forvin, yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. So your plan is to still to head to Forvin, and they tell you, yeah, like, there's 2 ways to head to Forvin from here. One of them is to head out early in the morning with a fisherman, like well before sunrise to the fishermen, and then while you're out there with them, there's a good chance they'll pass by other fishermen, and you can actually like trade, because they'll do trade amongst the boats. That's one of the ways that they'll do trade, is they gather the fish, whatever it is. Any trade they bring from the town, they go out and they'll do with other boats, because they'll encounter other boats from Forvin doing similar things, fishing. And so you could transfer from boat to boat, and then when they finally pull in for the evening, you can be in Forvin. And to do that, it actually probably wouldn't cost you anything if you're willing to actually work hard. They probably wouldn't cost you a penny to do so. However, the other option is if you just wait here, inevitably there's going to be a riverboat that that is heading from Hodgwen or what have you up that way. In which case, then you can do so. Well, let's talk about these rivers one sec. The river heading east-west at the southern part of the lake, as we are right now. This river is it flows to the sea, so it flows eastward. So a river heading westward in this direction would be one that has either enough of a rowing crew or whatever it might be to go against the tide of the current, to go against the current of the river. So it's probably a boat where it's not going to be cheap to hop onto, because it's like a proper boat with a proper crew. So you'll be paying a decent penny to get onto it, right? The other river that's there, the one that heads north-south out of the north part of the thing here, this river similarly flows southward. So the lake itself is open, but so you'd want to dock into Forvin at the edge of the lake. So it might be a little bit more expensive, again, to hop on a boat. It's easy, or you can just go with the fisherman and try your luck.
Yeah. Instinctively, he probably wants to go with the river because that's also probably a shorter trip than like spending all day boat hopping
and potentially not even getting onto another boat.
Yeah, because there's always a chance that it's like, well, yeah, nothing today. Have to spend all day on a fishing boat and come back. So, but also it's free, and he lost a lot of money to them bastards. No, you know what? Actually, I think he wants to get there. Like, hearing if there's a way to get there faster, he'd probably want to do that. Because there's still a chance that they stop in Forvin. But if he waits too long, they may make their stop and go. And he'll miss them. So yeah, he would pay the riverboat.
Okay. And so you'll do that, and you'll wait here in hopes that a riverboat arrives.
Right. Either way, I'm waiting. So.
Yeah. Well, to your benefit, a riverboat does arrive today, and you will have the opportunity to climb onto it. But speaking of rivers flowing, I gotta pee. So I think that we should take, I honestly just really need to pee and come right back. But I'm sure I want to give you the opportunity to use the restroom if you'd like. Why don't we take like a 3 to 5 minute break and we'll be right back? Sound good?
Sure. Yeah.
Awesome.
Sounds good to me.
Show off some of the more artwork that I got done. So I guess we will be right back, everybody. 3 to 5 minutes. So, also take your moment if you need one. Yeah, though truth be told, Keegan, they were probably just listening to us while peeing anyways. They brought us in the bathroom. Filthy animals.
More than likely. I'm actually going to